To pay off their debts, your parents sold you in the dead of night to a girl with bipolar disorder and severe sound sensitivity, a filthy rich heiress. Right now, you're clutching the jade token of the absolute queen of Beijing high society. Standing behind you is the very madwoman who makes the entire city tremble in fear. Xingyao had told you, seeing this bead is like seeing me. She also said, if anyone dares to lay a finger on you, smash them to pieces. I'll take the blame for whatever you break. You slowly raise your head, showing a flash of the same ruthless edge you picked up from that woman. Since you all want a show, since you think I'm just some kept toy, then let me show you if this so-called canary can peck your damn eyes out. You pull out your phone and shoot a text to the pinned contact with the black profile picture. Miss Xing, someone is bullying your guy. Message sent successfully. The corner of your mouth smirks up, your eyes completely ice cold. Overnight, the whole atmosphere at the medical university completely flipped. You fell right off your untouchable pedestal, turning into a hated rat that everyone wanted to crush. Early Thursday morning, as soon as you step into the lecture hall building, you immediately feel the weird tension in the air. The loud, chattering crowd in the hallway, the very second you show up, falls dead silent, and then, countless eyes lock onto you like harsh spotlights. Hey, look, that's him. He looks so pure and innocent. Who knew he was such a dirty slut deep down? The filthy whispers buzz around you like a swarm of flies. You cover the prayer beads on your wrist, staring straight ahead. Your back is kept perfectly straight. If I don't feel embarrassed, then they're the ones who will. That was the absolute first rule of survival you learned from being around Xingyao. But, the moment you push open the heavy doors to the lecture hall, the chaotic room instantly drops into a dead, suffocating silence. Over 200 pairs of eyes snap straight toward you, totally dripping with disgust, morbid curiosity, and sick amusement. Your gaze cuts right through the crowd, landing on the blackboard at the front. Someone had used glaring, thick red chalk to scribble absolutely vile insults all over it. Rich girl's little toy. How much for one night? Get the hell out of med school. Every single word is drawn massive, looking like they're trying to eat you alive. Lin Shan, who's sitting right in the front row, even whips out his phone to snap a picture of the board, shouting mockingly at the top of his lungs. Oh man, our campus pretty boy is here. Everybody make way. Hey, Mu Jie, aren't you gonna answer the questions on the board for us? Waves of nasty, malicious cheers erupt through the class. Everyone is totally convinced that you're going to snap and lose your mind. But, you just stand there at the doorway, staring at the whole board full of filthy insults, with absolutely zero expression on your face. You just give Lin Shan one cold, deadpan look, and then start walking. Step by step, you calmly and steadily walk right up to the podium. The mocking laughter in the room slowly dies down. Everyone stares at you in total shock, watching as you step up to the blackboard, and casually pick up the eraser, patiently wiping away those glaring red words, the white chalk dust drifting down through the air. Toy, how much, get lost. Those vicious words slowly vanishing beneath your hand, until they were completely gone. The entire process lasted a full 2 minutes. The entire class of over 200 people, not a single one of them said a word. Everyone was completely stunned by your almost eerie calm. Finally, the blackboard was spotless once again. You set down the eraser, and dusted the chalk off your hands. Then, you turned around, facing the sea of mixed expressions in the room. Right then, you thought of Xingyao. You remembered that stormy night in the completely wrecked study room. Remembered her absolute madness, trying to press a burning cigarette right into her own flesh during her episode. You remembered that suffocating, near-death feeling when she was choking you. So, compared to that, this childish graffiti and mocking right in front of you, it was literally like kindergartners playing house. Childish, and totally pathetic. 3 minutes left until class starts. You finally spoke. This period was physics. That professor had a serious temper, and she absolutely hated a dirty blackboard. You looked right at the girl who had been mocking you the loudest just now. Your eyes dead calm. If you don't want to fail this class, you'd better shut your mouth right now. After saying that, you didn't look at anyone else, and walked straight to the middle of the very front row. Sat down quietly, and opened your textbook. The classroom was dead silent for 3 seconds. Then, that girl sulked back into her seat, her voice suddenly a whole lot quieter. Meanwhile, Lin Shan gritted his teeth, glaring daggers at your perfectly straight back, gripping his pen so hard it almost snapped. He just couldn't understand. You'd already been dragged through the absolute mud, so what gave you the right to still act so damn high and mighty? But as you looked down at your book, your hand quietly slipped up your sleeve, gripping that string of ice-cold prayer beads. With her standing right behind you, none of these little monsters could ever hurt you. The first major lecture finally ended. The professor had barely left the room, when the suffocating tension instantly broke into noisy chatter. You closed your textbook, only to find the aisle completely blocked. Lin Shan was standing there, holding a piping hot cup of latte, smirking and joking around with his little crew, shooting sideways glances in your direction. They were obviously up to no good. You couldn't care less, so you grabbed your books and tried to walk around them, But, the very second you walked past Lin Shan, whoops. Lin Shan let out this incredibly fake gasp, his foot conveniently slipping. He crashed right into you without warning, and the lid on his latte was just conveniently loose. Splash. An entire cup of scalding hot, dark brown coffee, spilled dead center, splashing right all over you. The scalding liquid instantly soaked right through your clothes. The whole room went dead quiet again. Everyone was just waiting to watch the show. The burning pain made you gasp sharply. That sticky, burning liquid clinging to your skin, it was absolutely disgusting. Right then, Lin Shan put on a fake look of total shock. His eyes brimmed with gloating amusement. Oh my. Our great campus idol. He looked you up and down, taking in your ruined clothes. His tone dripped with contempt. But I guess that doesn't really matter, does it? Since your sugar mommy is so loaded, who cares if this gets a little dirty, right? Lin Shan took a step closer, lowering his voice to a vicious whisper. Just go home and service your sugar mommy real good. I'm sure she'll buy you 10 more. After all, for a guy like you, it's really just a matter of bending over. A wave of muffled, mocking snickers broke out around the room. Everyone thought you would run away in burning humiliation, or fly into a furious, screaming rage. But you didn't run. You didn't even bother to wipe the stain off your body. You just stood there in dead silence, glancing down at your soaked shirt. Then, you slowly raised your head. And those eyes were like a bottomless, freezing abyss, locking coldly onto Lin Shan. In that split second, Lin Shan actually saw a terrifying flash of Xingyao in you. That exact same untouchable, looking at absolute trash kind of gaze. Are you done laughing? You finally spoke. Your voice wasn't loud. Lin Shan flinched a little under your stare, but he forced himself to look tough. What? Can't handle a little joke? I didn't do it on purpose. At worst, I'll just pay for your dry cleaning. Is a couple dozen bucks enough? Lin Shan sneered. He actually pulled a crisp $100 bill from his bag and tossed it at your feet, like he was throwing scraps to a beggar. You didn't even glance at the floor. Instead, you pulled out your phone, opened up your payment QR code, and shoved it right in Lin Shan's face. This shirt is a custom Italian piece. Entirely handmade. Your tone was completely flat, as if you were stating the most boring fact in the world. It's completely out of stock here. It had to be flown in. I don't remember the exact original price, so let's just round it down. You stared straight into Lin Shan's slowly freezing face. Parting your lips, you dropped the number. 38,000. Are you using Apple Pay, or... Instantly. The whole room gasped in shock. 38,000? For a basic-ass shirt? Are you out of your mind? Lin Shan shrieked right then and there. 38 grand for this piece of trash? You're completely delusional. Are you trying to extort me? You're welcome to look it up. You took a sudden step forward, closing in on Lin Shan. You might have a slender build, but right now, your aura was absolutely terrifying. This was the dominant presence you had absorbed from staying by Xingyao's side for so long. That natural, suffocating superiority of someone at the very top. And, you pointed at the huge, dark stain on your chest, your eyes ice cold. Coffee has soaked right into the fibers. The shirt is completely ruined. It can't be washed. It is pure garbage now. Lin Shan, you were the one who offered to pay for it. You waved the phone in your hand, the QR code clearly visible. It was glaringly bright. I'm in a hurry. If you don't pay for this, I'm calling the police right now. We can go to the station and take our sweet time assessing the damages. Lin Shan completely panicked. Looking closely at the texture and sheen of the fabric, he realized it definitely wasn't some cheap knockoff. 38,000. His monthly allowance was barely over 10,000. This kind of money was absolutely no small change to him. Your parents, desperate to pay off their debts, had sold you off overnight to a rich heiress suffering from bipolar disorder and extreme sound sensitivity. But more importantly, your worldly, unshakable calm had completely terrified him. If you weren't genuinely used to wearing clothes like this, how could you be so calm when they were ruined? That kind of absolute confidence just couldn't be faked. I don't have that much on me. Lin Shan's arrogance vanished in an instant. His voice was actually shaking. That's your problem. You put your phone away, your expression completely indifferent. I expect to see the transfer by tonight. Or else. You mimicked Xingyao's icy tone, dropping a casual but chilling threat. My lawyer will be in touch. With that said, you ignored Lin Shan's deathly pale face, turned around, grabbed your backpack, and under the stunned and fearful gazes of your classmates, walked out of the classroom with your back straight. It wasn't until you stepped out of the main gates that your tense shoulders finally slumped a little. You looked down at your ruined shirt, your heart aching so much it hurt. Honestly, this shirt cost way more than 38,000. It was over 60,000. But you didn't regret striking back just now. You touched the prayer beads hidden in your sleeve, a self-deprecating smile tugging at your lips. So this is what it feels like to throw your weight around. I have to admit, it felt pretty damn good. Having just survived that intense standoff over compensation, you were completely exhausted. The cold, wet fabric clinging to your skin, mixed with the sickly sweet smell of coffee, made you feel incredibly uncomfortable. 12 noon, at the school gates. You were just heading out to buy a change of clothes. But the moment you reached the entrance, a huge commotion broke out. Look, another luxury car. It's not a Maybach this time. It's a Bentley. A sleek, black stretch Bentley slowly pulled up to the curb. Oozing an old money, aristocratic vibe. The car door opened, but it wasn't a driver who stepped out. It was an impeccably dressed, gray-haired elderly woman wearing pristine white gloves. It was none other than the head housekeeper of the Xing estate, Aunt Zhang. Carrying a polished rosewood food container, Aunt Zhang scanned the crowd. And quickly locked her eyes on you. Mr. Mew. Aunt Zhang hurried over, bowing in a perfect 90-degree angle. Her tone couldn't have been more respectful. The miss heard that you had a scare at school today. She was worried you might lose your appetite, so she specifically asked me to bring you a medicinal broth prepared by our head chef. You were completely caught off guard, deeply flattered. Aunt Zhang, you really didn't have to come all this way yourself. It is my duty, sir. Aunt Zhang stared at the coffee stain on your chest, a flicker of heartache and anger crossing her elderly eyes. Oh my, how on earth did this happen? If the young lady sees this, she's going to be so heartbroken. With a wave of her hand, the female driver behind her immediately handed over an exquisite paper bag. These are the new clothes the young lady sent over. Please, go change into them right away. We wouldn't want you catching a cold now. Even though Xingyao was completely crazy, the people around her, whether it was Aunt Zhang or the bodyguards, they were all genuinely good to you. So, you took the food container and the paper bag, thanking her sincerely. Thank you, Aunt Zhang. And please, thank Miss Xing for me too. However, this heartwarming scene was completely twisted in the eyes of the onlookers. A luxury car, an old woman, hand-delivering food and clothes, along with that respectful yet intimate attitude. Instantly, a few students secretly taking photos nearby were so excited their fingers were trembling. Did you get it? High definition and unblurred. Oh my god, so this is his sugar mommy. I can't believe it's some old lady. Her hair is completely white. She's gotta be at least 70. How can he even bring himself to hook up with her? That is seriously messed up. The malicious clicks of the camera shutter were completely drowned out by the ambient noise. Aunt Zhang didn't notice a thing. She just dutifully reminded you. Mr. Mew, the young lady said she will come to pick you up at 5 o'clock tonight. With that, she gave another respectful bow. Then, she turned around, got into the car, and left. However, just 10 minutes later, the medical university's campus forum completely crashed. A new thread skyrocketed to the #1 trending spot. And the title was absolutely wild. Case solved. Hard evidence dropped. The sugar mommy behind the scenes is actually her. The original poster directly dropped the set of photos taken at the campus gate. In the photos, the white-haired Aunt Zhang was maliciously misrepresented. And your look of gratitude was twisted into gazing affectionately at the old woman. Caption was absolutely vicious. Bro, are you seeing this? His real sugar mommy is this old bat who could be his grandma. Chauffeur-driven luxury cars, hand-delivering food and clothes. This old hag is really doting on her little toy boy. I'm gonna puke. What is he even after? Does he like that she's ancient? Does he like that she doesn't shower? So this is the true face of your so-called campus idol. He'd even dig up a grave for a buck. Meanwhile, in a corner of the cafeteria, you had just opened the rosewood food container. Inside was a steaming bowl of bird's nest porridge. But before you could even take a single bite, your phone blew up with a barrage of messages. The moment you saw that thread, you nearly spat out your food. You stared at the photo of the kind-hearted Aunt Zhang, and then at the absolutely disgusting comments below it, completely speechless. An old hag. They actually mistook the Xing family's housekeeper for your sugar mommy. These people were completely out of their minds. Just then, a few guys walked by with their trays, giving you a look of pure disgust. Mew Jay, you can still stomach that? I guess that's a made with love lunch from your sugar granny. Does it reek of old people? Instantly, your hand froze on the spoon. You wanted nothing more than to dump that bowl of bird's nest soup right over their heads. And scream that Xingyao was the one who sent it. But then, an image of her dark, ice-cold, and absolutely arrogant face flashed in your mind. That ridiculously proud queen found out that, in everyone else's eyes, she was nothing but a white-haired, 70-something old hag. You violently shuddered. She would probably tear the whole damn school to the ground. Besides, Auntie Zhang had been so incredibly kind to you. If she got dragged into this dirty rumor, she'd definitely end up as collateral damage. Whatever. You took a deep breath. And quietly locked your phone. Let them misunderstand. It's way better than having that psycho storm over here and tear someone apart. You looked down at the exquisite herbal meal, smiling bitterly to yourself. The harder these idiots laughed and mocked you now, the harder reality was going to slap them in the face when the truth finally came out. After all, if there's one thing Xingyao hated most in this world, it was being called old. Meanwhile, at the Xing Group's global headquarters, on the top floor of the CEO's office, Special Assistant Xu Yang felt like her career was about to reach a very abrupt end. Clutching a tablet, she stood trembling in front of the massive desk, not even daring to breathe. Is this the post? Behind the desk, Xingyao twirled a fountain pen between her fingers, her voice so deathly calm it gave Xu Yang goosebumps. Yes, Miss Xing. Xu Yang's voice trembled violently. The PR team is already on it. Xingyao didn't say a word. She simply reached out and took the tablet, her slender fingers swiping slowly across the screen. The first thing she saw was a viral post exposing a supposed sugar granny romance, followed by thousands of absolutely vile comments. Old hag, coffin money, sick freak. Every single word felt like a venom-soaked arrow, aimed right at the precious boy she held so dearly in her heart. The air pressure in the room plummeted, turning so freezing cold it felt like ice crystals were forming. That is, until her icy gaze locked onto the hard evidence photo, and the top-voted comment right beneath it. Look at this old hag. She's gotta be at least 70 or 80, right? I can't believe Mu Jie would stoop so low to climb the ladder, hooking up with someone who already has one foot in the grave. Gotta hand it to him, that takes guts. In the photo, the so-called sugar mommy was actually her own housekeeper. And yet she, Xingyao, the undisputed queen of the capital's elite circle, 25 years old and in the absolute prime of her life, was treated like a ghost by these brainless idiots. They had actually replaced her with an old lady. A terrifyingly cold laugh slipped from Xingyao's throat. The very next second, the expensive pen she had used for less than 2 hours snapped clean in half between her fingers. Black ink splattered everywhere. Xu Yang's knees completely gave out from terror, almost dropping her to the floor right then and there. Old woman? Xingyao stared at the screen, her eyes churning with disbelief and pure rage. She snapped her head up, the icy glare in her eyes cold enough to freeze someone solid. They're saying I'm some hag in her 70s or 80s, and that Mu Jie is only with me for my life insurance? Xu Yang stammered, trembling as he explained, Boss Xing. That was Auntie Zhang in the picture. They completely misunderstood. Those students are just blind fools. Misunderstood? Xingyao slammed the tablet onto the desk so hard the screen instantly shattered. She shot up from her chair, ripping open her collar buttons. Unable to hold back her murderous aura any longer. Get the car ready, she barked, striding fiercely toward the door with a chillingly dark tone. To the medical university, I'm going to make those blind idiots take a really good look. She was out for blood. She was going to tear that school apart. However, just as Xingyao was about to step through the office doors, ready to unleash an absolute bloodbath, ding dong, her private phone in her pocket suddenly chimed. It was the notification sound for her special contact. Instantly, Xingyao stopped dead in her tracks. She pulled out her phone. A new message popped up on the screen. It was from Xiao Guan. Your parents, desperate to clear their debts, sold you overnight to a wealthy heiress with bipolar disorder and hyperacusis. Xingyao's footsteps suddenly came to a dead halt. She pulled out her phone, and a message from Xiao Guan popped up on the screen. It was just one simple line. Miss Xing. Someone is picking on your boy. Right after that, guessing she would absolutely lose her mind after seeing the forum post, you quickly sent a second text. Please don't come, I'm begging you. Just as expected, the elite Beijing heiress replied with towering fury. Why shouldn't I go? They're calling me an old hag. I want blood. But you typed out a firm, resolute reply. Because you are my ultimate trump card. And the trump card is always played last. As for this mess, I want to handle it myself. At the university's perfumery competition this Friday, I'm going to win first place, and personally throw the dirt right back in their faces. I'm going to smash their arrogant faces in. Staring at your bold declaration, Xingyao stood stunned in her office. She could almost picture you gritting your teeth. With that stubborn, defiant look in your eyes. You didn't beg for her protection. You wanted to bear your own fangs. The very next second, the tense corner of Xingyao's mouth suddenly curled into a cruel, wicked smirk. Now that's interesting. She lifted her phone to her lips, held down the voice record button, and spoke with a lazy yet absolutely undeniable dominance. Fine, if you want to play, I'll let you play, but, her tone abruptly shifted, dropping to freezing temperatures. It was her final ultimatum to you, and at the same time, her absolute backing. I'm giving you 1 week. If you can't win, or if anyone messes with you, I'll tear that crappy school down to the ground, and build an amusement park just for you. However, but it didn't end there. Putting down her phone, Xingyao gave her secretary a new order. Look into that perfume competition. If we're gonna teach them a lesson, let's make it hurt. A dangerous glint flashed in her eyes. Throw another 20 million at the organizers. I'll be sitting on the judging panel for the finals myself. Might as well let those blind idiots see what their so-called old sugar mommy actually looks like. In the blink of an eye, it was Friday, right at the registration desk for the perfume competition. For you, this was the perfect chance to prove yourself. But just 30 minutes before the deadline, everything went south. You were standing in the hall, clutching your registration form. But Senior Shu, your promised teammate, was nowhere to be seen. Right then, a timid voice spoke up from behind you. Mu Jie. You turned around and saw Senior Shu, But trailing right behind her were a few girls, just waiting to watch you make a fool of yourself. Senior Shu couldn't even meet your eyes. She was nervously gripping a withdrawal form. Her face flushed red. I'm so sorry. I can't team up with you for this competition anymore. Your heart sank, but you kept a completely straight face. Why? Senior Shu bit her lip, lowering her voice to a whisper. My advisor pulled me in for a chat, and said that if I partnered with you, it would ruin my chances for a scholarship. The rumors again. Another invisible stab in the back. Then, she darted a nervous glance at Lin Shan standing nearby. Her voice dropping even lower. Plus, Lin Shan said, that if I want my life ruined on the school forums too, I should just go ahead and join you. It finally clicked. Guilt by association. Lin Shan was forcing everyone to freeze you out, making sure you couldn't take a single step forward. Watching Senior Shu cower and look away, you didn't get angry. You didn't even try to make her stay. You just nodded. Fine, I get it. The very next second, looking like she'd just been spared from execution, Senior Shu practically sprinted away, leaving you alone. Just then, the noisy crowd around you suddenly fell dead silent. Countless pairs of eyes locked onto you. Some were sneering, others showed pity, and then, strutting over in his shiny leather shoes like a victorious rooster, came Lin Shan. Well, big shot Mew. How does it feel to get dumped? He exaggeratedly covered his nose, shouting to the crowd around him. Who in their right mind would team up with a kept little toy? This competition is a sacred hall of academics. We can't let trash like him taint it. Yeah, exactly. Get out of here. Stop blocking the way. Cheers and mockery echoed through the hall. Everyone was absolutely certain that you had already lost. However, you stand right in the eye of their malicious storm, yet you can't even be bothered to spare them a single glance. Instead, you just look down at the registration form in your hands, staring right at the section for your partner's name. It's completely empty, but the rules clearly state this competition is, quote, in principle, a two-person team event. In principle, you instantly recall what Xingyao once told you. The strong don't need to huddle together for warmth. The very next second, you take a deep breath, grab your pen, and cross out a line on that registration form with a heavy, deliberate stroke. Then, you turn around, march straight to the registration desk, and slam the form down onto the table. Professor, I'm signing up. The professor in charge of registration frowns. Mu Jie, where is your partner? You straighten your back. Your voice is icy, yet entirely unshaken. I don't have one. I'm entering solo. Hearing this, the entire room erupts into gasps and whispers. Is she insane? Doing the work of two people all by herself? Lin Shan actually laughs out loud. Mu Jie, who the hell do you think you are? Some legendary doctor reborn? Facing the flood of mocking doubts, you just calmly sweep your gaze across the room. You slowly roll up your sleeves, revealing that string of cold, white jade prayer beads. Your almond eyes are burning with a reckless, all-or-nothing fire. Whether I can pull this off or not, we'll see in the arena. You look right at the professor. Enunciating every single word, you say, the rules only stated, in principle, it's a two-person team. They never said going solo was forbidden. I have two hands. That's more than enough. I alone am an entire team. The professor is completely stunned by your sheer intensity. Eventually, he stamps his seal onto the form. Participating unit, Mu Jie, independent. Staring at that bright red seal, your mind is perfectly clear. So what if I'm isolated? Since nobody has the guts to stand beside you, then you'll just have to carve out a bloody path all by yourself, and show them what you're made of. However, on the morning just under 48 hours before the finals, disaster strikes again. You arrive at the lab building bright and early, ready to retrieve your ultimate secret weapon for the competition. Those rare medicinal herbs you bought using the allowance Xingyao gave you. The precious ingredients you finally managed to get your hands on. But, as you walk up to your locker, your right eye suddenly twitches violently. You pull out your key and slide it into the lock. Click, the locker door springs open, and a nauseating, chemical stench of ink instantly hits you right in the face. Your heart drops like a stone. Stiffly, you pull the locker door all the way open. The very next second, the sight before you makes the blood in your veins run absolutely cold. The inside of the locker is totally trashed. The century-old agarwood powder you had so carefully sorted and packaged. The premium saffron, the pure, natural musk. Right now, they are all completely drenched in thick, black ink. Drip, drop, the black ink is oozing down, soaking those priceless medicinal herbs until they are completely ruined and unrecognizable. Worse, on the inside of the locker door, someone had scrawled a line of words in glaring red paint. You actually think stolen goods belong in a competition? You stare at the pile of ruined materials. This is just pure, undisguised malice. They're absolutely trying to ruin you. If it were just some common herbs, it wouldn't be a big deal. But of course, they had to destroy the core ingredients for the ancient recipe. You can't just buy these off the shelf. Even if you ordered them, it would take at least 3 to 5 days to arrive. And the competition is the day after tomorrow. Without those main ingredients, how the hell are you supposed to compete? Right then, you hear a few muffled snickers coming from nearby. You don't even need to look back to know that Lin Shan and his crew are hiding in the corner. Enjoying the look of sheer desperation on your face. They want to see you completely break down. They want to see you tuck your tail between your legs and drop out of the competition. You take a deep breath, and close your eyes. When you open them again, the panic in your eyes is completely gone, replaced by an ice-cold calm. The very next second, you pull out your phone without hesitation. And dial the pinned number. It only rings twice, before she picks up. What's wrong? Xingyao's husky, lazy voice comes through the speaker. Hearing her voice, your hardened defenses instantly crumble just a little bit. Miss Xing, somebody is picking on me. To pay off their debts, your parents had sold you overnight to the wealthy heiress, who suffers from bipolar disorder and extreme sensitivity to sound. Instantly, over in the CEO's office at Xing Corporation, the pen in Xingyao's hand stops dead in its tracks. The ink bleeds into a dark spot on the paper. She looks up. Her eyes turn terrifyingly dark in a split second, and the temperature in the room seems to plummet. She only asks one word. Who? I'm sending someone over right now. No, you don't need to do that. You stare down at the ruined pile. My experiment materials were destroyed. All of them. I can't use a single thing. The competition is the day after tomorrow, and there's no way I can buy replacements in time. But surprisingly, after hearing this on the other end of the line, the rage in Xingyao's chest is immediately replaced by a completely different emotion. This feeling of being needed pleases her immensely. She leans back in her chair, a playful smirk tugging at the corner of her lips. So, what do you want me to do about it? You grit your teeth, remembering the massive ingredient vault under the Xing estate, which is practically the size of a museum. So, you lower your voice, sounding like you're sharing a dirty little secret. Miss Xing, could you maybe lend me a little bit from your stash? Just a tiny bit of agarwood and musk? I know it's super expensive, but you can just put it on my tab. I'll pay you back slowly. Lend? Xingyao lets out a soft chuckle, cutting you right off. Muje, do you have some kind of misunderstanding about your status? As the master of the Xing estate? She stares out the window, her voice dropping into a low, fiercely possessive purr. The entire Xing estate is your cage. Everything in the vault is yours for the taking. Just make a list of whatever you want. Xingyao paused, her voice dripping with sheer arrogance. Since the original was ruined, we'll just replace it with something better. I'll have my people send over the absolute top-tier goods from the warehouse. She narrowed her eyes, a flash of ruthless affection crossing her gaze. Let's show them what it really means to be true wealth and power. She hung up the phone. Exactly 58 minutes later, the peace and quiet of the campus was suddenly shattered by the deep rumble of engines, as a massive black convoy slowly rolled in. Leading the pack were 4 black Land Rovers, followed unexpectedly by 3 specially marked cold chain transport trucks. Those kinds of trucks were strictly used for ultra-premium fresh goods and precision medical equipment. The massive convoy drove straight up to the laboratory building, and came to a smooth stop. Holy crap, look at this setup. Is the cafeteria bringing in luxury seafood or something? Look at the logo. That's the high-end logistics branch of the Xing Group. They exclusively deliver auction-grade goods. While the crowd buzzed with gossip, the vehicle doors opened in perfect unison. Over a dozen men in black suits and white gloves quickly jumped out, throwing up a security perimeter, acting like they were guarding a nuclear warhead. Right after that, the rear doors of the transport trucks slowly lifted, and a thick cloud of white frost billowed out. Bodyguards carefully unloaded a series of custom-made, black climate-controlled cases. Every single case bore a striking label stamped in massive gold lettering. Xing Family Private Vault, exclusive supply. In the crowd, Lin Shan sneered. Must be some idiot with too much money putting on a show. Just playing dress up. But the very next second, his smile completely froze, because the lead bodyguard captain was marching right up to you, clipboard in hand. Mr. Mew, the captain stopped right in front of you, bowing respectfully as his booming voice echoed. The takeout Miss Xing ordered for you has arrived. Please sign for it. You stared at the mountain of cases in front of you, your mouth twitching. This is what she meant by just bringing a little over. You only asked for a few grams of agarwood. Did this convoy just empty out the entire Xing family vault? You muttered under your breath. This is way too much, isn't it? But the captain maintained a deadly serious expression. Miss Xing's orders were clear. If you're going to use it, you use the absolute best. We've brought plenty to spare, and if it's not enough, we have more. With that, he waved his hand. Open them up for inspection. In an instant, the lids popped open, and a rich, deeply intoxicating fragrance instantly flooded the air. An old professor from the traditional medicine department who was walking by locked eyes on the contents of the cases, his eyes nearly popping out of his skull. He literally lunged straight at them. There, resting inside the very first case, was a piece of ancient, weathered wood as thick as a human arm. Premium Shi Nan agarwood, century-old material. Just this one piece could buy a whole house in the capital. In the second box, top-tier Iranian saffron. The third box was even crazier. 2 wild purple reishi mushrooms, each as big as a wash basin. Plus rhino horn, and natural musk. Wild ginseng from Changbai Mountain. How are these just medicinal herbs? This was practically a mobile museum of traditional Chinese medicine. The tide of public opinion shifted instantly under the crushing weight of absolute wealth. Who said he stole anything? The guy's family is obviously loaded. Why would he steal those cheap scraps? You stood right in the middle of those priceless ingredients. Feeling the crowd's stares turn from disgust to absolute shock, you reached out and picked up that piece of agarwood worth a literal house. Feeling completely confident, right after that, you turned around and looked at Lin Shan, whose face was pale with rage. You casually waved the agarwood in your hand, speaking with a flat tone. Well, Lin, didn't you say my ingredients were ruined? Look, I've got new ones now. You smirked slightly, your eyes turning ice cold. And, compared to the old ones, these are 100 times better. Lin Shan was so insanely jealous that his fingernails nearly snapped. You couldn't buy this stuff even if you had the cash. Trying desperately to save face, he yelled out bitterly. TCH, only some 70 or 80-year-old hag would actually like collecting these dead branches and rotten wood. He pointed at the herbs with a look of total disgust. They reek of old people. Mu Jie, you really did sell out to be some old lady's toy boy, didn't you? You looked at Lin Shan acting like an absolute clown. And surprisingly, you weren't even mad. Instead, you just gave him a look of pure pity. You thought to yourself, keep barking, say whatever you want while you still can. Get it all out now. Because when Xingyao, that so-called old hag, shows up here in person, I just hope your jaw doesn't completely drop off your face. In the blink of an eye, Friday arrived. It was time for the medical university's biggest event of the year, the finals of the traditional incense crafting competition. The competition officially began. The massive auditorium was packed to the brim with 0 empty seats. Every student and teacher, along with heavyweights from the industry, had gathered together. The stage lights were dazzling. 10 different teams were lined up in a row. In front of everyone sat highly precise extraction machines, looking incredibly high-tech. But then, there was you. Your table in the far corner looked strangely empty. You wore a simple white lab coat, standing tall and confident. On your table, there were no flashy machines. Just a single jade jar, and a few brown paper bags of herbs. It was the absolute top-tier, premium stash that Xingyao had sent over 2 days ago. As the host gave the command, the competition began, with a strict 2-hour time limit. Standing dead center stage, Lin Shan was dressed to the nines. A smug look on his face, he snaps his briefcase wide open. Grass Rose Essential Oil, top-tier Jasmine Absolute. That tiny bottle alone must cost thousands. Gasps ripple through the crowd. Basking in the spotlight, Lin Shan expertly blends a variety of ridiculously expensive oils. He's going all out on pure, unadulterated luxury. Before long, a thick, cloyingly sweet rose scent floods the entire auditorium. It's like 100 roses smashed together, so overwhelming it makes your head spin. But over at the judges' table, the few who pocketed bribes are nodding in vigorous approval. Lin Shan tilts his chin up smugly, shooting you a defiant smirk. To him, you're just some pathetic bumpkin clutching a piece of rotting wood. But you don't even spare him a single glance. You just stand quietly at the front of the stage, utterly detached from the chaos around you. You open up that pale jade mortar. This very mortar is the exact one you used countless times back in the study at Star Manor. It even still holds a faint trace of cedar from Xingyao's fingertips. As your fingers gently brush against the smooth, warm jade, your racing heart miraculously settles. You whisper to yourself, let's begin. To pay off their crushing debts, your parents sold you off in the dead of night to a wealthy heiress, one who suffers from severe bipolar disorder and extreme sound sensitivity. Bringing your focus back, you pick up a small chunk of premium Kiera agarwood and drop it into the mortar. Then comes the saffron, borneol flakes, and a blend of calming herbs. No fancy lab equipment, no complicated chemical extractions. You grip the jade pestle tightly, and begin the most ancient, most repetitive motion of all, grinding. Thud, thud. The dull, heavy impacts are amplified by the microphone, sounding entirely out of place in an auditorium drenched in artificial perfume. The crowd instantly erupts into mocking laughter. What the hell is he doing? Is he cooking up a meal up there? But you tune it all out completely. Your movements are steady and unhurried, falling into a hypnotic, steady rhythm. Slowly grinding the raw materials down into a fine powder. 20 minutes pass, and right then, in the auditorium completely suffocated by the smell of roses, a subtle shift occurs in the air. At first, it's just a whisper of a faint, ethereal scent. It's icy, like the very first snowfall in the dead of winter, or a wisp of blue incense smoke drifting from an ancient temple. It silently slips into everyone's senses. It feels exactly like chugging an ice-cold plum juice on the absolute hottest day of summer, sending an instant, refreshing shiver right down your spine. The drowsy, suffocated minds of the audience suddenly snap into pure, startling clarity. Whoa, what is that scent? It smells incredible. All my stress just vanished. As your grinding speeds up, the aroma grows deeper and richer. Yet it maintains its perfectly restrained, icy elegance. It carries a hint of bitterness, followed by a lingering, soothing sweetness. It's medicinal, yet purely fragrant at the same time. This is the legendary Muhi incense. More than that, it's the exclusive formula you perfected over hundreds of tries, just to cure Xingyao's bipolar disorder. If it can calm the most vicious, raging beast in the world, it can effortlessly conquer this room full of ordinary mortals. Before anyone even realizes it, the mocking laughter in the auditorium dies out entirely. And Lin Shan's overpowering rose perfume, right in the face of your icy, medicinal aroma. It actually came off as incredibly tacky, just like some slicked back, spoiled rich kid. Meeting an ethereal, otherworldly god. This is impossible. Lin Shan stared at the bottle of essential oil in his hand, his face instantly turning a livid shade of pale. He just couldn't wrap his head around it. How could the ash ground from a few pieces of rotten wood smell better than his imported essential oil? Right at that moment, you stopped what you were doing, looking down at the fine, dark brown powder in the jar. A faint smile touched the corners of your lips. You thought to yourself, Xingyao loves this scent the most. You could even picture it, if she were here right now. She would definitely bury her head in your neck like a giant cat, and greedily whisper, "Smells so good." You suddenly snapped your head up. Your voice boomed through the microphone, echoing across the entire hall. "My incense is finished." The crisp, overpowering scent of the Mu blend incense still lingered in the air above the auditorium, leaving a long, captivating trail. All the doubts from the audience had vanished, completely replaced by wave after wave of amazed gasps. Even the students who knew absolutely nothing about incense could smell how incredibly premium it was. A top-tier fragrance, one that truly brings total peace to the mind and soul. You stood at the front of the stage, a thin layer of sweat breaking out on your forehead. But your eyes were shining brighter than ever. You looked over at the judges' panel, waiting for a fair score. However, Professor Zhang, sitting at the head judge's seat, looked terrifyingly grim. She glared fiercely at your jade mortar and the premium agarwood, a flash of pure greed crossing her eyes. Professor Zhang suddenly slammed her hand on the table, letting out an ear-piercing crack. She stood up and pointed a finger right at you, looking utterly appalled. "This is completely absurd. Mu Zhe, this is a university-level competition. It's not a place for you to show off your wealth, and it is certainly not a place for you to fence stolen goods." You froze right on the spot. "Fence? Stolen goods? Professor, what exactly do you mean by that? Still playing dumb, huh?" Professor Zhang let out a cold sneer, holding that piece of agarwood high in the air. "Listen up, everyone. This is top-grade Kinam agarwood. It's literally worth tens of thousands per gram. Materials on Muji's table right now? Added up, they're worth at least a few million." The entire crowd instantly erupted into an uproar. "Millions? Are you treating these rare herbs like they're cheap candy?" Professor Zhang glared fiercely at you. "As far as I know, you're a completely broke student who has to take out loans just to pay tuition. So where exactly did you get your hands on these priceless herbs? You were just about to say that someone gave them to you, and that you couldn't afford them. But Professor Zhang cut you right off, laying down her verdict on the spot. "Since you obviously can't afford them, the source is incredibly suspicious. Did you steal them, or did you get them through some illegal black market? If this massive accusation actually stuck, you would be facing serious prison time." You were shaking with pure anger. "I didn't steal anything. I got these through perfectly legal channels." And right at that moment, Lin Shan saw his chance. He shot up from his seat, snatching the microphone. His voice was shrill and excited. "Professor, do we even need to investigate? Everyone knows he's got a sugar mama outside of school." Lin Shan pointed right at you, his face twisted in absolute disgust. "Sure, that old hag might be loaded, but there is no way she'd just hand over millions in rare herbs for her little toy to waste. It's obvious Mu Zhe has sticky fingers. He stole them to show off." These words instantly set the crowd on fire. "Oh my god, he's actually a thief? That's so disgusting. Get off the stage." The audience erupted in a deafening roar, threatening to drown you out. Seeing this, Professor Zhang immediately went along with the crowd, waving his hand grandly. "I now announce that Mu Zhe is officially disqualified. Security, drag him out of here, and confiscate those stolen goods. Call the cops." As soon as he spoke, two massive security guards lunged at you menacingly. They tried to snatch the green jade medicine pot. That was the one you painstakingly prepared for Xingyao. "Don't touch my stuff." You threw yourself over the lab table, desperately shielding the medicine pot and the agarwood. "This is mine. I didn't steal anything. These were a gift. You have no right to take them." "A gift?" Lin Shan was laughing so hard he doubled over. "Mu Zhe, if you're gonna lie, at least make it believable. Millions of dollars worth of gifts? What kind of sucker would give you that? Your imaginary billionaire sugar mama?" By now, the guards had already grabbed you by the arms and were violently dragging you away. "Come with us. Stop embarrassing yourself here. Let go of me." You struggled frantically. In that moment, an overwhelming wave of absolute helplessness washed over you. Why doesn't anyone believe the truth? You clearly won, yet you were being chased off the stage like a common thief. The guard's hands were like iron vice grips, digging painfully into your arms. Get off me, these are mine. You clung desperately to the green jade medicine pot in your arms. In the chaos, the cuffs of your sleeves were pulled back, slipping all the way down from your violent struggling. Clack, a string of crystal clear, icy white jade Bodhi beads was instantly exposed under the stage lights. 108 beads. Every single one was full and luminous like the moon, wrapped tightly around your wrist. This exact scene was broadcast straight onto the massive screen behind you. Is that, in the judges' seats, the female principal of the medical university, who had been resting her eyes, snapped her eyes wide open the second those beads appeared. Bang! The old principal looked as if she had just seen a ghost. She jumped to her feet so fast she knocked her chair completely over. She let out a furious, high-pitched roar, her voice cracking from pure, unadulterated shock. Stop. Everyone, stop right now. Don't you dare touch him. The security guard was completely stunned by the roar. His body froze. Lin Shan and Professor Zhang jumped in shock too. Professor Zhang looked totally confused. Principal, what are you doing? This boy is a thief. The proof is right here. Shut your mouth. Do you have any idea whose property that is? The old principal pointed at the prayer beads on your wrist. His fingers were shaking violently, his face as pale as a ghost. The cold white jade Bodhi. That's the token of the Xing family head from the capital. It's the very lifeblood of the Xing family's prodigy. The Xing family. The Xing prodigy? The people in the crowd who knew what that meant instantly gasped in horror. How is that even possible? Lin Shan shrieked. His sugar mama is just some old hag. How on earth could it be Miss Xing? Exactly. Professor Zhang started panicking too. Principal, you must be mistaken, right? There are tons of cheap knockoffs of these beads. Maybe he even stole them, before she could even finish her sentence. Bang! With a massive crash, the tightly shut doors of the auditorium were violently kicked wide open from the outside. The heavy wooden panels slammed ruthlessly into the walls. Dust rained down from the ceiling. The entire hall went dead silent in a split second. Everyone stared at the doorway in pure terror. Just to pay off their massive debts, your parents sold you overnight to a wealthy heiress suffering from severe bipolar disorder and hypersensitivity to sound. Stepping right into the blinding sunlight, a tall, commanding silhouette strode forward. The woman was dressed in a fully custom-tailored suit, draped in a matching trench coat. Trailed by 2 rows of bodyguards dressed in pitch black, she tilted her head up slightly. And that breathtakingly gorgeous, yet terrifyingly demonic face came clearly into everyone's view. Her sharp, piercing eyes, from dozens of meters away, locked onto the people bullying you on stage with absolute precision. Her voice was incredibly deep, icy cold, and laced with a world-ending fury. Amplified through the microphone handed to her by a bodyguard, it exploded right next to everyone's ears. You said, he stole it? Xingyao took a long stride forward. Step by step, trampling right over everyone's racing heartbeats, she walked straight up onto the stage. She walked right up to you, reached out her hand, and pulled your violently shaking body tight into her embrace. And then, she turned around, looking down her nose at Professor Zhang and Lin Shan, who had collapsed on the floor in pure terror. The corner of her mouth curled up, flashing an unbelievably ruthless smile. I was the one who gave him that, and I am the one protecting him. Xingyao swept her deadly gaze across the entire hall. Her tone suddenly turned razor sharp. What? Do any of you have a problem with that? Under the glaring spotlight, the woman who had just kicked down the main doors was now standing right by your side. One of her hands was wrapped protectively around your waist, the other holding the mic. Her shoulders were perfectly straight, her waist incredibly slender. But what made it impossible for anyone to look away, was that face. The woman standing right in front of you showed absolutely zero trace of aging. Had even a single strand of gray hair. Her features were as flawless as a carved statue. With her deep, piercing eyes and perfectly sculpted nose, words couldn't even describe it. That innate, bone-deep elegance and overwhelming aura made everyone too terrified to even look her in the eye. But the thousands of students and teachers who had just been screaming thief were now dead silent, as if an invisible hand was choking them. Their eyes were practically popping out of their heads. Was this the legendary old woman with 1 foot in the grave? Was this the 70 or 80-year-old grandma they thought was about to drop dead? Are you freaking kidding me? This was clearly a top-tier goddess. The kind every rich heir in the capital would kill to marry. Xingyao looked down at the sea of dumbfounded faces, and let out a cold, mocking scoff. The sound echoed through the microphone, piercing sharply into everyone's ears. Why so quiet all of a sudden? Immediately after, she absent-mindedly played with your hand, the one wearing the wooden prayer beads, as her icy gaze swept across the entire hall. You were all talking so much trash just a second ago, weren't you? She tilted her head slightly, her eyes locking onto the violently shaking Lin Shan. Her delicate lips parted. I heard that in your eyes. I'm some pathetic, 70 or 80-year-old hag with 1 foot in the grave. And I heard that you think he's only with me just to get his hands on my coffin money? These rhetorical questions landed like vicious, ringing slaps across the face of every single person who spread those rumors. especially Lin Shan, his face instantly drained of all color, his whole body convulsing in pure terror. How is this possible? How could it be her? This is the terrifying, untouchable boss of the capital's inner circle. Lin Shan's tongue tied itself in knots, an overwhelming dread gripping his heart like a vice. He had actually just called her a disgusting old woman. However, Xingyao didn't even spare Lin Shan another glance. Instead, she turned to the old principal, who was sweating bullets. Principal Zhang. Xingyao's voice instantly dropped to a bone-chilling absolute zero. Heavy with fierce interrogation, the old principal practically trembled as he shuffled over. Miss Xing. What brings you here in person? But Xingyao just scoffed coldly, abruptly raising her wrist, the one wrapped in prayer beads, high into the air. If I didn't come, my fiancé would have been chased off this stage and branded a thief by all of you. Fiancé. The moment that word left her lips, the entire hall collectively gasped in shock. Not a boy toy, not some sugar baby, her fiancé. Immediately after, Xingyao pointed straight at the paralyzed Professor Zhang and the security guards, her tone absolutely murderous. Spreading malicious rumors, slander, even publicly detaining him by force. She glared relentlessly at the old principal, spitting out every single word like shards of ice. The education at your esteemed university has truly opened my eyes. Is this your so-called century-old prestigious institution? Is this the kind of absolute garbage character you cultivate? The old principal's face instantly flushed a dark, humiliating purple. The Xing family donated multiple buildings to this school every single year, and Xingyao herself was an honorary board director. And now, her man was being publicly bullied by the entire faculty and student body, right on her own turf. This was practically throwing the Xing family's reputation in the dirt and stomping all over it. Miss Xing, this is a huge misunderstanding. I swear, an absolute misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? A glint of pure, violent rage flashed in Xingyao's eyes. She gently let go of your hand, and took a slow step forward. That terrifying pressure forced everyone to subconsciously step back. I don't want to hear explanations. I only look at the results. She curled the corner of her lips, revealing a demon-like smile. Anyone here today who joined in spreading rumors, or laid a hand on him? Not a single one of you is getting away. Xingyao's phrase, not a single one is getting away, wasn't a threat at all, but the Grim Reaper's judgment. Just now, was it you two who laid hands on him? Her icy glare instantly locked onto those two security guards. The two of them were scared completely pale on the spot, their legs trembling uncontrollably. They couldn't even hold their batons, dropping them to the floor with a loud clatter. Facing this terrifying boss of the Beijing elite, they instantly shrank into helpless little chicks stared down by a hawk. Miss Xing, we were just following the school's arrangements. One of the guards stammered, his voice trembling like a leaf. Following arrangements? Xingyao let out a cold laugh. Her ruthless eyes swept over the hands that had grabbed his arm. Following arrangements gives you the right to rough up my man? You had a great time dragging him just now, didn't you? She tilted her head slightly, and the bodyguards behind her immediately stepped forward, grabbing the two guards like little chicks and forcing them to kneel on the ground. Right after that, Xingyao looked down at them from above, her tone flat, but dripping with a bloody ruthlessness. I am giving you two choices. Whichever hand touched him, cripple it yourself, and we'll consider this matter settled. Or the second option. She unhurriedly adjusted her cuffs. A flash of cruelty crossed her eyes. I have my people do it. But my men are heavy-handed. If they do it, it won't be just one hand getting broken. The entire crowd gasped in an uproar. Too ruthless. This is a school, but those two dense rows of intimidating bodyguards made absolutely sure no one dared to doubt her words. The two security guards were instantly scared out of their wits, kowtowing and begging for mercy. Miss Xing, please spare us. We were just doing our jobs for a paycheck. Don't want to choose? Xingyao instantly lost her patience, waving her hand in absolute disgust. Drag them away. Don't dirty this place. The bodyguards immediately grabbed them. Under the terrified watch of thousands of eyes, they were dragged toward the back door like dead dogs. Very quickly, a few muffled, agonizing screams echoed from outside the doors. Inside the auditorium, there was a deathly silence. Right at that moment, Xingyao turned around, her gaze slicing like a knife toward the slumped Professor Zhang. Professor Zhang, she slowly dragged out his title. Her tone was dripping with sarcasm. A true model educator, highly respected indeed. Professor Zhang's face turned completely pale. I am the head judge. I have every right to raise doubts. This was all for fairness and justice. Xingyao looked as if she had just heard the biggest joke in the world. She held out her hand, and her assistant immediately placed a thick manila folder into her palm. Xingyao took it, not even bothering to open it up. She just raised her hand, and the thick stack of documents was viciously smashed right into Professor Zhang's hypocritical face. Papers went flying everywhere. Is this your so-called fairness and justice? Xingyao pointed straight at the papers scattered on the floor. Her voice struck like cold thunder. Within 1 week, your private account received a transfer of 500,000. The sender was Lin's building materials. She shot a sharp glance at Lin Shan, the mother of our dear classmate Lin right here. Besides that 500,000, how much more did you pocket? How many students have you crushed? How much research have you stolen as your own? With every question she fired, Xingyao took a step closer. Professor Zhang backed up in sheer panic, tripping and collapsing hard onto the floor. To pay off their debts, your parents had sold you overnight to a rich heiress suffering from bipolar disorder and severe sound sensitivity. Down on the floor, the professor frantically scrambled to pick up the bank statements, along with screenshots of her chat logs, babbling incoherently. No, this is all slander. Slander or not, go tell it to the authorities. Xingyao stared down at her with freezing disgust, looking at her like she was nothing but a pile of trash. I've already sent the files to the Education Bureau and the Disciplinary Committee. The academic world has no place for scum like you. Right as the words left her mouth, Professor Zhang's eyes rolled into the back of her head. She fainted dead away on the spot, and was dragged off by school staff who couldn't even hide their disgust. In just 10 short minutes, the security guards were completely dealt with. The professor was taken down for investigation. With absolute ruthlessness, Xingyao swiftly cleared the entire room. In that heavy silence, every single eye in the audience turned to look at you. They were all waiting for you, the ever-so-kind hero of the story, to step up and tell her to just let it go. You watched the guards being dragged away, watched the unconscious professor, and looked at the sheer terror written across her classmates' faces. Yet your handsome face remained completely cold and indifferent. You didn't say a single word. You didn't beg for mercy. You didn't play the bleeding heart saint. You just stood quietly beside that crazy girl, letting her wipe out everything in your path, because you knew better than anyone else. If Xingyao wasn't here today, if her absolute power hadn't crushed them, then the one being dragged away right now, the one getting disqualified, the one being spat on and completely ruined by the whole school, would be you. Showing mercy to your enemies is just cruelty to yourself. That was the lesson Xingyao had taught you, with her own two hands. You slowly raised your eyes and looked right at her. There was absolutely no fear in your deep eyes. Only pure, unwavering trust and reliance. And then, you reached out your hand, and gently tugged on Xingyao's sleeve. She turned back to you, the lethal coldness in her eyes instantly melting away, completely replaced by a soft, tender warmth. What's wrong? Getting soft-hearted? No. You shook your head gently. Looking across the absolute wreck of a stage, your voice was soft, yet crystal clear. Now that the trash has been taken out, Miss Xing, I'd like to continue the competition. You wanted to win this fair and square, with your own raw talent, and not through her power. Take back the championship that belongs to you. But unexpectedly, as the dust settled, the old principal stepped forward, wiping the cold sweat from his brow, ready to respectfully see off this absolute powerhouse. Miss Xing, would you like us to escort you to the VIP lounge to rest first? However, Xingyao didn't budge. Instead, she turned her head and glanced at you. In your eyes, as you stared at the jade crucible, a fiery determination was still burning. The competition wasn't over. You hadn't won yet. Xingyao read your gaze in an instant. A fleeting, indulgent smile flashed across her fiercely dark eyes. Rest? Xingyao echoed coldly. She let go of her protective hold on you, and under the stunned gaze of the entire crowd, she took a long stride and walked right off the stage. But she wasn't heading for the exit. She was walking toward the judges' panel. Right there, the head judge, Professor Zhang's seat, sat completely empty, looking like a freshly cleared throne. Xingyao walked right up to it and pulled the chair back with one hand. The harsh screech of the chair dragging across the floor echoed through the dead-silent auditorium. She turned around and sat down. Her movements were smooth, exuding an absolute, effortless dominance. What the hell are you staring at? Xingyao lifted her gaze, sweeping her eyes over the dumbstruck host and the contestants on stage. The competition isn't over yet, is it? Keep going. The entire crowd erupted in shock. Keep going? After someone just got dragged away and had their hands broken? Now this terrifying woman was actually sitting down to watch the show? The old principal was sweating, completely terrified and confused. Miss Xing, what exactly do you mean by, am I not making myself absolutely clear? Xingyao frowned slightly, with a flash of dangerous impatience in her eyes. Her sharp gaze cut straight through the crowd, landing perfectly on you up on that stage. Didn't some people say he stole things? Didn't they say he was just clinging to a woman to get to the top? If that's the case, then let him finish the damn competition. I want all of you blind fools to take a very good look. The man I chose. Let's see if he relies on his pretty face, or his pure talent. She wasn't just here to get revenge for you. She was going to completely clear your name. She was going to sit right there, using every ounce of her power, to force an absolutely fair stage for you. She wanted to watch you take that championship title with your own strength, making everyone who ever doubted you choke on every single dirty word they said. Do you understand me? Xingyao tapped her knuckles against the desk with a sharp thud. You understood. The host was so terrified he nearly dropped his microphone. He quickly screamed into it. The competition continues. The timer started again. Only 30 minutes left on the clock. The competition had been forcefully rebooted. But now, the atmosphere in the auditorium had shifted entirely. Simple campus tournament had instantly morphed into a suffocating, high-stakes royal trial. Up at the judges' panel, the remaining experts and professors were sitting on pins and needles, sweating bullets. They sneaked a glance at Xingyao, who was sitting dead center. Her face was completely expressionless, radiating an aura as cold and intimidating as an iceberg. Yet, every judge felt a sword hanging right over their heads. The last guy who messed up had just been dragged away. Who in their right mind would dare to fake the scores now? Who would dare take a bribe? Right now, they wished they could use a magnifying glass to judge perfectly, terrified that a single point off would get them thrown to the wolves by this ruthless heiress. Just then, the host spoke, his voice trembling violently. Mu-J, please, continue. Up on stage, you looked at the woman sitting right in the middle of the judging panel. She was looking right back at you. Those eyes, usually so fierce and aggressive, were now filled with a deep, calming silence. She was holding the line for you. She was silently telling you, go do what you need to do. If the sky falls, I've got your back. You took a deep, steadying breath, and picked up the green jade pestle once again. This time, your hands didn't shake at all. Your entire world shrank down to the mortar in front of you. That one, single person watching from the audience. The rhythmic grinding sound echoed again. Thump, thump. Every strike pounded directly into the hearts of everyone listening. But little did they know, as the competition clock restarted, these final 30 minutes were going to be absolute torture for some people. Every second dragged on like a lifetime in hell. Lin Shan stood at his workstation, his hands trembling violently like a leaf in the wind. He didn't even dare to lift his head, because if he did, he'd lock eyes with that woman, who looked as terrifying as the Grim Reaper himself. What do I do? What do I do? Lin Shan's mind was complete mush. In a blind panic, he grabbed a bottle of highly concentrated, synthetic musk essential oil. That stuff was insanely overpowering. Normally, you'd only need a single drop. But his hands were shaking way too badly. Splash. His hand slipped, and over half the bottle of pure concentrate dumped straight into his mixing bowl. Oh, crap, I'm dead. Before he could even try to fix it, a violently overwhelming stench exploded into the air, hitting everyone like a chemical bomb. Back then, to pay off their debts, your parents had sold you off overnight to a wealthy heiress suffering from bipolar disorder and severe sound sensitivity. Now, back to the awful smell. It was like walking into a shady, dirt-cheap barbershop, where someone smashed bottles of cheap cologne and greasy hair oil, all mixed with rotting, expired candy. It was so unbelievably pungent. The sickening sweetness made your throat seize up, triggering an instant wave of nausea. A few judges in the front row turned completely green, gagging out loud. Even the audience members way back were pinching their noses in disgust. Ah, what the hell is that smell? Is he making perfume or setting off a stink bomb? Lin Shan panicked. He scrambled to fix it, but only made things worse. He even managed to knock over a bottle of pure rose oil. The clash of those two heavy concentrates created an absolute nightmare for the senses. Over at the judges' table, Xingyao furrowed her brows deeply. For her, breathing in this cheap, industrial stench was literal torture, while the entire room was gagging and dizzy from the toxic fumes. Over in the corner of the stage, you finally set down your pestle. Looking perfectly calm, you pulled out an antique, wooden incense burner, smoothed out a fresh layer of incense ash, and then, you used a silver spoon to scoop up the dark brown powder, carefully shaping it over the ash into the ancient symbol for peace. Finally, you strike a match. Lighting the incense powder, a whisper thin, pale blue smoke begins to rise. This wisp of smoke seems like nothing against the heavy, overwhelming stench of synthetic perfume. And yet, in just a few seconds, that wisp of smoke becomes an invisible blade. Piercing the air with an intense, icy purity, it instantly slices right through the suffocating smog in the room. It isn't sweet. In fact, it carries a faint, bitter edge. But the moment that scent hits their noses, everyone feels a sudden rush to the head. It feels exactly like a cool mountain spring washing over them. The restless heat just melts away. The nausea vanishes. It feels cold, silent, and completely pure. What kind of incense is this? An old professor, who had been covering his nose, suddenly takes a deep, greedy breath. His eyes widen in absolute shock and pure bliss. That cheap, chemical stench is completely wiped out. The entire auditorium instantly transforms into a quiet, secluded valley. But right at that moment, right in the center of the judges' panel, Xingyao's deeply furrowed brow. The moment that wisp of smoke drifts her way, completely without warning, relaxes. She slowly drops the hand shielding her nose, closes her eyes, and leans back into her chair. This is it. The exact scent that has kept her company every single night for the past 2 weeks. The scent that soothed every wave of her anxiety. It's the exact same incense you made in her study. Grinding it down by hand, stroke by stroke. It is her peaceful sleep. It's her tranquilizer. And most of all, it's her very own salvation. Xingyao rests her fingers on the armrest and begins to tap them gently, keeping time with a rhythm only she can feel in the air. Tap. She's soaking it in. And more than that, she's sending a silent, secret signal of connection to you up on stage. Amidst the chorus of gasps filling the hall, the corner of her mouth curls into the faintest, yet most fiercely proud little smile. Right after that, the wisp of blue smoke grows even more distinct. Thousands of teachers and students fall into a bizarre, spellbound silence. Every restless heart is suddenly soothed, as if stroked by an invisible hand. Right at that moment, an old lady with a full head of silver hair on the judges' panel suddenly looks wildly excited. She is a living legend in the world of traditional Chinese medicine. Granny Lu. She leaps right out of her chair, marching straight to the edge of the stage, greedily sniffing at the lingering smoke. Her voice shakes, and her eyes are completely wild with obsession. Agarwood as the sovereign, grounding the energy and warming the core. Silk tree blossom as the minister, calming the mind and clearing away the gloom. She snaps her head up to look at you, staring as if you're the rarest jewel in the world. Kid, this formula of yours, could it be? Is this an improved version of the lost ancient recipe, the Great Clarity Jade Well Incense? The moment those words drop, the professors who know their stuff absolutely lose their minds. The Great Clarity Jade Well Incense? Isn't that the legendary royal secret recipe that you couldn't buy for 1,000 pieces of gold? But you just give a slight nod, totally calm, neither arrogant nor overly humble. You have a sharp eye, Granny Lu. Yes, it's a modified ancient recipe. Excellent. Old Lady Lu slapped her thigh in pure excitement. This isn't just perfumery. This is clearly a life-saving medicine. This is the true legacy of traditional medicine. With the esteemed master's stamp of approval, the competition's outcome was no longer in doubt. During the scoring phase, the judges eagerly raised their scorecards. A continuous streak of perfect scores lit up, converging into a dazzling red number, 100 points. Unanimous perfect score, something completely unseen in the 10-year history of the medical university's perfumery competition. However, Xingyao, sitting right in the center of the judging panel, didn't even raise her scorecard. She didn't need to give a score. Her mere presence was the highest form of praise. She looked at you, shining brightly on stage, and a proud smile touched her lips. This was her Moog. He wasn't just some clinging vine relying on her. He was a life-saving miracle in his own right. A second later, she leaned into the microphone and uttered a single, concise word. Reward. Just one word. Utterly domineering. It meant that on top of the championship title, the Xing group would be adding a scholarship of astronomical proportions. Thunderous applause erupted across the hall. But amidst all the cheering, Lin Shan looked exceptionally pathetic. His final score was a laughable single digit. This is bullshit. I don't accept this. He had completely lost his mind, his scream cutting right through the applause. On what grounds? His stuff is absolutely foul. Mine is the real fragrance. Hearing this, you slowly turned around. Microphone in hand, you looked calmly at the hysterical guy. Lin Shan, your voice was cold and clear, echoing throughout the entire auditorium. Do you know why your fragrance lost? Lin Shan gritted his teeth. Because you have connections. You shook your head and walked right up to him, pointing at his bottle of murky essential oil. Traditional medicinal perfumery is all about the synergy of ingredients. It's about the balance of yin and yang. You looked at his face, completely twisted by jealousy and rage. Your tone was light, yet every single word cut like a knife. But your fragrance is way too volatile. In your desperate chase for a strong scent, you recklessly piled on aggressive ingredients. Just to win, you didn't hesitate to destroy that delicate balance. You stared him down, your tone sharp as a blade, carrying a double meaning. Just like you as a person, impatient for quick success, and completely unethical, you glared intensely at Lin Shan, delivering your final verdict. A fragrance is born from the heart. If the heart is filthy, the fragrance it creates will naturally reek, and it will inevitably backfire. The moment you finished speaking, those last words hung like an invisible curse, bearing down heavily on Lin Shan. Stop with your self-righteous bullshit. Lin Shan was trembling with absolute rage. Consumed by extreme fury and humiliation, he looked ready to charge up and rip your face off. Desperate to piece back his shattered dignity, but just as he opened his mouth, the very moment he was about to scream, a suffocating tightness gripped his throat without warning. To pay off their debts, your parents sold you off overnight to a manic-depressive rich heiress with extreme sound sensitivity. His sharp curses dissolved into a fit of violent coughing. Lin Shan suddenly clutched his neck, panic flashing in his eyes. That cheap perfume he had accidentally spilled was now seeping into his lungs like some kind of toxic gas. Lin Shan tried to breathe, but every gasp of air felt laced with jagged thorns. A split second later, an agonizing itch exploded from deep beneath his skin, instantly engulfing his entire body. It itches so bad. He began clawing frantically at his own neck and arms. Up on the massive high-definition screen, thousands of students and teachers watched in pure horror as Lin Shan's pale face broke out in a terrifying, angry red rash right before their very eyes. These were the early warning signs of severe anaphylactic shock. The overpowering chemical fragrance, combined with his raging fury, had instantly completely overwhelmed his immune system. The very next second, thud, Lin Shan's legs gave out, and he collapsed heavily onto the floor. As he went down, his flailing arm swept the bottles of essential oils off the table. The glass shattered, and the pure, highly concentrated liquid splashed straight all over his suit. Help me! Lin Shan writhed on the floor, clawing desperately at his own throat. His nails gouged bloody streaks into his skin, and his face rapidly swelled into a sickening shade of purple. His body went into violent convulsions, his eyes rolling to the back of his head. His consciousness was fading fast. The same guy who was acting so high and mighty just moments ago was now reduced to a pathetic, dying mess thrashing on the ground. It all happened so fast. So terrifyingly fast. 1 second he was screaming insults. And the next, he was on the floor having a seizure. What's happening to him? Call the school medic, right now. He's going into anaphylactic shock. He's going to die. The entire auditorium erupted into absolute chaos. Yet amidst all this sheer panic, Xingyao remained perfectly still in her judge's seat. She stared coldly at the man writhing in agony on stage, her eyebrows knitting slightly in disgust. As she raised a hand to cover her nose, so damn loud, she muttered under her breath, not a single ounce of pity in her freezing eyes. As far as she was concerned, he brought this entirely on himself. Miss Xing, the old principal was pacing around in an absolute frenzy. If someone dies here, it'll take at least 10 minutes for the medic to arrive. But looking at the state Lin Shan was in, let alone 10 minutes. The guy wouldn't even last 3. Were they really just going to stand there and watch him die on stage? The stage had devolved into a complete madhouse. Lin Shan had stopped thrashing. A sickening death rattle gurgled from his throat. His entire face was completely swollen and disfigured. His eyes rolled back in pure despair. Move out of the way. Stop crowding around him. The old principal was sweating buckets in sheer panic. But the terror spread through the crowd like a virus. Nobody dared to move a single muscle. And right then, Xingyao just sat there in the judge's seat, watching this pathetic circus with cold eyes. She felt absolutely zero sympathy for the idiot who had the nerve to throw a tantrum on her turf. Shu Yang. Xingyao frowned. Her slender fingers tapped lightly on the armrest, her tone chillingly cold. Have someone drag him out. Don't leave him here. It's bad luck. Xingyao's words were piercingly cold. But just as the female bodyguard was about to step forward, wait, your cool voice suddenly rang out. It wasn't loud, but it had a strange, piercing quality. You had actually stopped the bodyguard. Mr. Mu. The female bodyguard looked hesitantly at Xingyao. But Xingyao raised her hand, signaling her to step back, watching you with deep interest. She wanted to see exactly what you were going to do. The next second, you crouched down. From the pocket of your white coat, you pulled out a small black cloth roll. With a flick of your wrist, the cloth unrolled, revealing rows of silver needles gleaming with a cold light. They appeared right before everyone's eyes. What is he doing? Acupuncture? Is that really gonna work right now? He's going into anaphylactic shock. Voices of doubt rose from all around. But you turned a deaf ear to them. You extended 2 fingers, and smoothly drew out a 3-inch needle. Without even sterilizing it, you swiped the tip of the needle directly with the residual muhe incense powder on your fingertips. And then, without a single moment of hesitation, your hand moved and the needle struck. The first needle, fast, accurate, and ruthless. It pierced directly into the Renzong point, right in the middle of Lin Shan's philtrum. Lin Shan, who was on the verge of losing consciousness, suddenly jerked his body, but you remained completely expressionless, not even batting an eye. Immediately after, the second needle, the Hegu point, the third needle, Qiuqi point, the fourth needle, the Shuihei point. Your movements were so fast they were a blur. Those hands that usually ground medicine and peeled oranges were now as steady as a rock. Every single needle carried an unquestionable sense of absolute control. Clear the heat, cool the blood, open the senses, and awaken the mind. This was the lightning-fast, life-saving technique of traditional Chinese medicine. As the last silver needle fell into place, your fingers moved slightly, swiftly manipulating the needles. A miracle happened. Lin Shan's tightly constricted airways suddenly seemed to open up. Long, ragged breath was forcefully sucked right into his lungs. The purplish-red color of his face began to fade visibly. The terrifying red rash on his neck also slowly began to lighten. His life was actually saved. The entire room was dead silent. Everyone was utterly dumbfounded. A few thin silver needles had actually pulled a man right back from the gates of hell. So this was the power of Chinese medicine. The terrifying threat of suffocation finally retreated. Lin Shan suddenly jerked halfway up, gasping for air greedily and violently. He was alive, but when he opened his eyes, the very first thing he saw was your shoes. Moving his gaze upward, it was your face, looking down at him with zero expression. To think you were the one who actually saved him. In that split second, for Lin Shan, it was even more humiliating than nearly dropping dead just a moment ago. It was pure humiliation. He had just publicly degraded you, tried to ruin you completely. Yet, in the blink of an eye, there he was, like a pathetic dog, clinging to life solely because of your mercy. The eyes of the crowd shifted from sheer terror to utter disgust and mockery. He's so lucky to be alive. Thank God Mu Zhe was the bigger person and didn't hold a grudge. Right? If it were me, I would never save a toxic creep like him. Those hushed whispers pierced Lin Shan's ears like sharp needles. Clenching his jaw tight, his voice rasped. Who the hell asked you to step in? I don't need your fake pity. But you completely ignored his outburst. Your face was entirely cold and indifferent, as you slowly pulled out the silver needles, one by one. Your movements were feather-light, yet they carried a ruthless, chilling rhythm. After finishing, you didn't just walk away. Instead, you suddenly leaned in closer, looming over Lin Shan, who was still slumped on the ground. You were so close, close enough for him to catch your crisp, icy scent, and to see the bottomless, terrifying chill in your eyes. You don't need my fake pity? Your voice dropped to a deadly whisper, meant only for the two of you. But to Lin Shan's ears, it sounded like a whisper straight from hell. Lin Shan, you're gravely mistaken about one thing. You reached out a single finger, and lightly tapped the exact pressure point right above his lip where the needle had just been. Right where the sharp sting still lingered. Then, enunciating every single word, you brutally declared, I saved you. Just so I could watch you live and suffer. Lin Shan's pupils shrank in sheer terror, his entire body violently trembling. The corner of your mouth curled up, forming a smile so chilling it would make anyone's blood run cold. Do you know, if traditional medicine can save a life, it can naturally end one, too. And it can do so silently, without a single soul ever finding out. Your finger slowly traced downward, hovering just over his pounding heart. Your tone was as soothing as a lullaby. The human body has 361 acupoints. Some can kill you instantly, others can render you totally mute. If my needle slips even a fraction of an inch, or goes just a tiny bit too deep. You watched the color completely drain from Lin Shan's face, a flash of wicked satisfaction gleaming in your eyes. You might not die, no. But you'd be plagued with agonizing, inexplicable migraines, endless insomnia, or perhaps, full body paralysis. You could go to every hospital in the world, and they wouldn't find a single thing wrong with you. You'd just rot in sheer agony for the rest of your miserable life. It was nothing short of the most terrifying curse. Why you wouldn't dare? Lin Shan stammered, his teeth violently chattering, his face an absolute mess of snot and tears. But you just gave a cold, cynical laugh. Why wouldn't I? You slowly pulled your hand back and stood up straight, instantly restoring your aloof, untouchable demeanor. You looked down at your utterly broken opponent, and dropped one final, chilling warning. Your life belongs to me now. From now on, at school. If I ever see your face again, or hear a single dirty word come out of your mouth. You narrowed your eyes, casually straightening your cuffs. I really wouldn't mind giving you another dose of those needles. Only next time, whether you actually wake up or not, will be entirely up to fate. Lin Shan's very last psychological defense, completely shattered in that instant. He suddenly let out a blood-curdling scream, like he had just seen a demon, scrambling backward on his hands and knees. Desperately trying to get away from you. Stay away from me. I won't ever do it again. I swear. He was sobbing hysterically, even wetting himself right then and there out of sheer terror. A foul stench instantly filled the air. The students around you were absolutely stunned. No one had a clue what you had just whispered to him. That could scare a rich, arrogant brat into such a pathetic state. Quick, get him on a stretcher. The school medics finally rushed in, frantically directing people to carry the mentally broken Lin Shan away. And you, just stood there, right in the center of the stage. Watching him get carried off with a perfectly calm expression. A second later, you pulled a wet wipe from your pocket, meticulously scrubbing the fingers that had just touched him. Before casually tossing it into the trash. Destroying the mind is always deadlier than destroying the body. Compared to physical pain, this kind of bone-deep, lingering terror is the ultimate punishment for a bully. You turned around, facing the stares of the entire crowd. The corners of your lips curling up into a subtle smirk. This battle, you had won, completely and utterly. Your parents had sold you off overnight to pay their debts. Sold you to a filthy rich young lady suffering from bipolar disorder and severe sound sensitivity. But right now, there was no more mockery. No more prying eyes. Those who used to curse you as just a kept boy, now had nothing but pure, unadulterated awe in their eyes. You had conquered the industry masters with a single jar of incense. Saved your enemy's life with just a few needles, and utterly shattered his soul in the process. Kept boy? Screw that. This was the awakening of an absolute savage, Mu Zhe. And yet, you couldn't care less about their praises. Your gaze cut straight through the crowd, locking onto the judges' panel. Right at that moment, the terrifying woman who had just been radiating absolute fury stood up. Xingyao didn't give a single damn about anyone else in the room. She took long, deliberate strides, walking step by step right into the center of the stage. As she got closer, the entire hall instantly went dead silent. Every single person held their breath, all of them dying to see just what this terrifying boss was going to do. But to their shock, she walked right up to you, and simply held out a jacket. She wrapped it snugly around you, shielding your exhausted body completely. It didn't just block out all the crazed, staring eyes from the audience. It also carefully hid the prayer beads resting on your wrist. You were her treasure. How could she let anyone else gawk at you? Then, she murmured a soft command. Keep it on. And you just stood there, obediently letting her fuss over you. You were instantly wrapped in that familiar, overwhelming sense of safety. The nerves that had been wound tight all afternoon, finally, completely let go. And then, Xingyao gently reached up, and tenderly tucked a stray lock of hair behind your ear. She looks at you, her voice dripping with absolute, unapologetic adoration. Have you had enough fun? It was as if this thrilling, high-stakes competition was nothing but a little game she let you play. You look into her deep, intense eyes. And you know, she's waiting to take you home. So, you nod firmly. I've had enough. I got it out of my system. I put them in their place, and took home the championship. It's time to go home. The very next second, Xingyao pulled you in, locking you tightly in her embrace. Let's go. And just like that, under the shocked gazes of thousands across the school, the absolute queen of the Beijing elite held her newly crowned miracle doctor close, turned on her heel, and strode away. The heavy doors slammed shut behind you, leaving the entire auditorium in stunned silence. In the blink of an eye, the doors of the Maibach clicked shut. With a soft mechanical hum, the black, soundproof partition slowly rolled up, sealing the two of you off from the rest of the world. All the chaos faded away, leaving a thick, heavy silence in the cabin. You finally sank back into the leather seat, letting go of everything. The tension you'd been carrying all day finally snapped, and the adrenaline washed away. A massive wave of exhaustion hit you instantly. But right at that moment, the woman beside you spoke, her voice cool and low. Tired? But this time, Xingyao didn't pull you into her arms like she usually did. Instead, she leaned back lazily, twirling something between her fingertips. It was a silver needle, gleaming coldly in the dim light. The exact same one you used to strike your enemy just moments ago. Her heart skipped a beat. Miss Xing, don't play with that, you might prick yourself. To your surprise, Xingyao just let out a soft chuckle, pointing the needle into the empty air. You weren't so worried about anyone getting pricked when you stabbed that guy, were you? You pursed your lips. I knew what I was doing. But before you could even finish, Xingyao suddenly lunged forward, her hand snatching your chin in a fierce, inescapable grip, forcing you to look up at her. Do you have any idea how you looked up there on that stage? Her thumb roughly traced your skin, her voice dark and husky. You were so fierce, like a completely different person. Your heart pounded wildly against your ribs. An anxious thought flashed through your mind. Did she hate it? Was I too ruthless? Ruthless? Xingyao raised an eyebrow, the dangerous smirk in her eyes deepening. She leaned in dangerously close, her warm breath ghosting across your skin. I absolutely loved it. The man who belongs to me, Xingyao, should have exactly that kind of ruthless, sky-shattering arrogance. Then, she narrowed her eyes, dropping the ultimate question. Those absolutely soul-crushing words you used. Who taught you that? Staring into the crazy, burning fire in her eyes, all your fears suddenly vanished. Feeling a sudden rush of courage, you reached up, and grabbed her wrist. Meeting her gaze, the corner of your mouth curled into a smile. No one taught me, I learned it from you. Xingyao froze for a second, but the very next moment, with a clear, delightful laugh, she pulled you into a tight hug. Resting her forehead against yours, she murmured, since you're such a fast learner, don't you think you deserve a little reward? You blinked innocently. What kind of reward? But Xingyao just chuckled softly. So cliché, she teased, raising her hand. She tapped her perfect lips lightly with her index finger. You did great today, so, I'm granting you a special privilege. That bitter medicine you were supposed to take tonight. You're off the hook. Your eyes instantly lit up. Really? But, Xingyao shifted her tone, gently pressing a finger against your lips. You don't have to drink the medicine, but we can't skip the routine. She leaned in close, your breaths mingling. I'll let you skip straight to the candy. You froze. What candy? Xingyao gave a wicked little smile. Right here. The moment she spoke, she tilted her head and captured your lips. It was an incredibly tender and lingering kiss. You closed your eyes, wrapping your arms around her neck, completely surrendering to the feeling. However, the storm was far from over. Lin Shan dropped out and scuttled out of the capital in disgrace. You thought your life could finally go back to normal, but you vastly underestimated human jealousy and malice. Early Wednesday morning, the second you walked into the classroom, you sensed something was off. The prying eyes around you were even more intense than before. Right after that, you pulled out your phone and opened the campus forum. A new thread had completely blown up. Deep dive analysis. That drop-dead gorgeous sugar mommy from the other day. Real deal, or paid actor? You frowned and clicked on it. The original poster had written a massive essay. But the core argument came down to just one thing. That woman is totally fake, guys. Think about it. Real billionaires are all in their 40s or 50s. Someone that young and that beautiful? How could she possibly be running a multi-billion-dollar empire? She's definitely a paid actor. My buddy told me about this high-end girlfriend rental service. Prices start at 100,000 a day. So Moog must have blown his life savings to hire a top-tier model to put on a show. Reading through these totally unhinged theories, you just found it absurd and hilarious. Xingyao, a rental girlfriend? If she ever found out about this, she'd blow this entire forum to pieces. Just then, the guy in the front row suddenly turned around. Hey Moog, why didn't your fiancé come drop you off today? Is she just too busy? His eyes were practically screaming, stop pretending. Couldn't afford to renew her contract, huh? You didn't even bother looking up. She's busy, you say, your voice barely above a whisper. Busy tearing people apart in international board meetings. Busy checking up on that necklace she gave you. But out of nowhere, that guy sneers, his voice loud enough for everyone to catch. Told you so. She got bored of playing with him after just a couple of days. Did he really think he bagged a sugar mommy? Your grip on the pen suddenly tightens. You aren't even mad anymore. Just exhausted. Back at Star Mansion, you're the master of the house. The man Xingyao cherishes more than anything. But here at school, you're just the fake little toy boy. No matter what you do, you just can't shake off that label. Letting out a soft sigh, your fingers instinctively brush against the prayer beads hidden in your sleeve. You stare out at the gloomy gray sky. Xingyao, when are you going to be done with work? I just want you to stand in the sunlight. To stand right by my side. I want these people to finally see what it really means to be totally out of their league. Friday, at 5 p.m. That feeling hits its breaking point. The school gates are packed with people. Everyone's laughing and joking around, but you just feel freezing. The bitter late autumn wind cuts right through your thin jacket. You huddle up, shivering, gripping the prayer beads in your pocket. You just want to push through the crowd and get out of here. But of course, a bunch of guys suddenly step right in front of you, blocking your path. Well, if it isn't our big champion Mew. Where's the fire, buddy? The one leading the pack is Lin Shan's little lapdog, the same guy spreading the rumor that you hired a model to play your girl. You frown, trying to sidestep them, but they cut you off again. Move, you say. Your voice is deadpan and icy. Whoa, hold your horses. The guy smacks his gum, leaning over to dramatically peer behind you. Oh man, where's the shiny Maybach today, huh? He suddenly gets right in your face, his eyes full of pure malice. Where's that rich fiancé of yours, Mew Jae? Show's over, huh? Did her hourly rate expire? Little do they know, to clear their debts, your parents shipped you off overnight to a wealthy heiress dealing with severe bipolar disorder and extreme sound sensitivity. Meanwhile, a crowd of students is already swarming around you guys. I totally knew she was a hired actor. 100,000 a day, they say. As if he could afford that. The whispers flood in from all sides like a suffocating wave. You're sick to your stomach with this garbage. You don't even owe them an explanation. She's busy. You spit the words out like ice. You drop your shoulder, trying to force your way through. Busy? More like you couldn't afford her anymore. A flash of ugly anger crosses the guy's face. He suddenly lashes out, shoving you hard in the chest. Stop acting so high and mighty. I wasn't done talking. Who said you could leave? Caught completely off guard, you stumble backwards, struggling to catch your balance. A sharp, piercing pain shoots right up your ankle. You hiss, sucking in a sharp breath. Why the hell are you pushing me? Are you insane? But he just doubles down. Yeah, I pushed you, so what? You pathetic liar. Bet you returned that rental car days ago, huh? See? I told you he was just showing off. That guy was still running his mouth. But before he could finish, the words choked abruptly in his throat. A deep, aggressive roar of engines suddenly echoed across the entire school gate. Everyone instinctively turned around. The next second, their eyes went wide in shock. At the end of the street, bathed in the blood-red sunset, a massive fleet of jet-black luxury cars emerged, surging forward like a river of dark steel. They were roaring right toward them. That black wave of steel was tearing through the traffic, hurtling straight for you. Not just one car. It was 8 cars in total. 3 Land Rover Defenders at the front, 3 at the back, guarding an incredibly sleek yet intimidating Maybach S680 in the middle. It looked like a black lioness patrolling her territory. The surrounding drivers panicked and scrambled out of the way. With a screeching roar of brakes, the convoy pulled off an aggressive drift, stopping dead center and completely blocking the school gate. The massive gust of wind from the cars forced the guy who pushed you to stumble back several steps. All several thousand students were instantly frozen in disbelief. Before you could even process it, the doors of all 6 Land Rovers flew open at exactly the same time. Over 20 bodyguards in sharp suits leapt out of the vehicles in perfect unison. With cold, ruthless eyes, they quickly formed a human wall, aggressively forcing everyone back 3 meters. That highly trained, intimidating presence instantly drained the color from the faces of the cocky guys from earlier. Is this the legendary supermodel? What kind of modeling agency can afford a private army like this? Right at that moment, the rear door of the Maybach slowly swung open. Every single person held their breath. The first thing to step out was a perfectly polished black leather boot, followed immediately by a pair of long, perfectly straight legs. The woman stepped out of the car, slowly and deliberately adjusting her cuffs. Her movements were as elegant as if she were at a state banquet. The sunset washed over her, yet it couldn't melt her freezing, untouchable aura. The very next second, she slowly raised her head. Those dark, piercing eyes, deep as an abyss, locked dead onto your face through the crowd. Xingyao narrowed her eyes. Her gaze lingered for a second on your messy, wind-blown hair and your thin shirt. The aura around her instantly plummeted below freezing. Who gave you permission? Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried a terrifying, blood-chilling edge. To block his way? Under the fading sun, she strode purposefully right toward you. You could only stare blankly as she approached. Xingyao stopped right in front of you. She looked up, and when she saw the thin windbreaker you were wearing, and your lips turning purple from the biting wind, those dark eyes immediately narrowed with intense displeasure. Why are you wearing so little? Her voice was low, laced with obvious frustration and protectiveness. Before you could even answer, Xingyao didn't hesitate to pull out a coat and drape it over your shoulders. A rush of warmth surrounded you. Xingyao's pale fingers moved nimbly, buttoning up the coat for you. Then, she slowly reached up, and gently cupped your cheek. Who messed with you? You just smiled softly. No one. The wind's just a bit strong, so I got a little cold. Must be a strong wind, Xingyao chuckled softly. Yet, beneath her gaze swirled a frost cold enough to freeze blood. She didn't call out your lie, though. Instead, she just tilted her head slightly. From the corner of her eye, a ruthless glare shot out like daggers, sweeping over those boys. In an instant, they felt like they'd been plunged into an icy abyss. Trembling like leaves in a storm, Xingyao pulled her gaze back, and looked at you again. She gently cupped your face with both hands, her thumbs caressing your soft cheeks. Alright, it was the wind, and since the wind is being disobedient, then I'll just make the wind stop. But if people are being disobedient, Xingyao leaned in close, resting her forehead against yours. A terrifying, dark obsession flashed in her deep eyes. Give me a name. She pressed a soft kiss to your eyelid, her voice as gentle as a lover's whisper. And I'll make them disappear from the capital, forever. That single, godlike whisper froze every ounce of noise at the school gates. Those boys still clung to a shred of hope. They're just acting, right? This has got to be a prank. But right at that moment, a wealthy girl standing at the edge of the crowd finally caught a clear glimpse of Xingyao's profile. Smack. The shoebox she was holding slipped and hit the ground. Her pupils trembled violently, her voice shaking as she stammered, "That's..." Classmate next to her nudged her. "Who is it? Do you know that model or something?" "Model my ass." The girl snapped out of her daze, her voice cracking in pure, unadulterated terror. "If you want to dig your own graves, don't drag me down with you. That's no freaking model." She pointed at Xingyao, her fingers shaking uncontrollably. "That's the Xing family, the only Xing family in the entire capital. That is Xingyao, the head of the Xing consortium, the legendary queen herself." Those words dropped like a nuclear bomb, instantly blowing apart everyone's fragile little reality. Xingyao, that mythical, terrifying name. The flashy-looking guy was so terrified his legs gave out, and he collapsed onto the ground. But didn't they say she was just some old hag? Open your damn eyes and look at the license plate. That's the exclusive plate of the Xing family. The wealthy girl looked like she was about to burst into tears. And look at that cold white jade prayer bracelet. Who in the entire capital would dare fake that? Pure shock, absolute terror, utter disbelief. So, you weren't lying after all. The rumors about some old hag were just that, rumors. The model thing was just blind speculation. Because the mountain backing you is actually so untouchable that no one even dares to be jealous. Yet, Xingyao didn't so much as blink at the commotion. She just kept looking down at you, still dazed in her arms. Slowly, she reached out and grasped your left hand, the one wearing her jade beads. "Since you've all figured it out." And in the very next second, she grabbed your hand, the one adorned with the bracelet, and thrust it high into the air, making sure that thousands of people standing there could see it clear as day. Bathed in the sunset, that string of cold white jade, the ultimate symbol of the Xing family's supreme power, was wrapped securely around your slender wrist. But the real bombshell was yet to come. Right there, under thousands of terrified, envious eyes, the undisputed queen of the capital pressed her warm lips fiercely against the jade beads on your wrist. "Take a good look." Xingyao raised her head. Her voice echoed through every corner. "This bracelet was put on him by my own hands." Then, she pressed your hand against her chest, her fierce gaze sweeping across the crowd, declaring, word by word, "This is my, Xingyao's, fiancé. He is the future master of the Xing family." If it was just shock a moment ago, now, it was absolute despair. Xingyao's eyes fell coldly on the group of bullies. "I can pretend you were all just blind to what happened before. But from today on," she narrowed her eyes. A chilling aura made the temperature plummet. "If anyone dares to lay a single finger on him." Xingyao's lips curled up, revealing a devilish smile. "I wouldn't mind ripping out your tongues myself, and chopping off your hands." Slam. The heavy car door closed, and the soundproof partition slowly rose, instantly blocking out all the chaos outside. The light inside the cabin was dim. You leaned back against the leather seat, your heart still racing. Everything that just happened felt like an absolute dream. The future master of the Xing family. That title was too heavy. So heavy that it felt unreal. You turned your head, looking at the woman beside you who had just caused such a massive storm. Yet, she looked completely calm, resting with her eyes closed. You couldn't help but speak up. Why were you so high profile today? Aren't you afraid of the trouble? You asked softly, full of worry. Your parents, to pay off their debts, had sold you overnight to this rich heiress, a woman with bipolar disorder and severe sound sensitivity. Hearing this, Xingyao finally opened her eyes. A hint of amusement flashed in them. Trouble? She chuckled softly, suddenly pulling your hand over, and gave it a gentle, teasing bite. Mu Zhe, you need to get one thing straight. In this city, I, Xingyao, am the biggest trouble there is. She sat up straight, grabbing the back of your head, forcing you to look up at her. As for why? Because I want the whole city to know that you are mine. You are the man I, Xingyao, have personally claimed, locked down, and cherish with all my heart. Why hide you away? That's for the shadows. I want you standing out in the sunlight. Standing where everyone can see you, but can never, ever reach. Hearing her domineering yet passionate declaration, your heart swelled with an aching warmth. But you still lowered your eyes. Your voice barely a whisper. But, I'm just a pawn to pay off a debt. I'm not worthy of you. I'll just embarrass you. Embarrass me? Xingyao frowned, clearly annoyed by your self-deprecation. The next second, she forcefully tilted your chin up. Her thumb firmly caressed your skin, rubbing until a beautiful, heavy flush blossomed. The next second, she looked deep into your eyes. And word by word, she made a solemn vow. Moog, being able to have your back, being your safe haven, is my absolute honor. Boom, your mind went completely blank. That last lingering bit of insecurity and inferiority about your status was completely shattered by her words, vanishing into thin air. This woman was giving you the absolute best that the world had to offer. Xingyao, an unprecedented wave of impulse surged through your chest. You didn't want to hold back anymore. Without another thought, you pushed yourself up. Gathering your courage, you leaned in, and under Xingyao's slightly surprised gaze, you closed your eyes and pressed your soft lips gently against her sharp jawline. Thank you, you whispered softly into her ear. But little did you know, Xingyao's entire body stiffened. That warm, soft touch on her jaw was like a single spark, instantly igniting a dark, raging fire deep inside her. You actually made the first move, and you think that's it? Her voice dropped into a sudden, husky whisper, a dangerous undercurrent swirling in her eyes. Starting a fire and then trying to run? Before you could even pull away, a pale hand suddenly gripped the back of your head, stripping away any chance of escape. You let out a gasp, but your lips were immediately and fiercely captured. She didn't just want your jaw. She wanted so much more. She forcefully parted your lips, sweeping in completely unhindered, with a ravenous ferocity, like she wanted to devour you whole, as she deepened the kiss. The air inside the car instantly grew incredibly thin and burning hot. Pinned down by her, your entire body went weak, leaving you helplessly clinging to her shoulders, surrendering entirely as she claimed your territory and conquered every inch of you. You completely lost track of time. Eventually, the Maybach pulled slowly into the Star Estate. The night was pitch black, yet the main mansion was blazing with lights. However, the air was thick with a suffocating, heavy tension. The moment the car rolled to a stop, Xingyao took your hand and led you out. Uncle Zhang, the old butler, was already waiting by the door. But today, his expression was unusually grim. Something arrived for you, miss. Uncle Zhang stepped aside, holding an item with both hands, and respectfully offered it to Xingyao. This was sent over from the main family estate, marked as extremely urgent. It was an invitation, an immaculate card, embossed with a gleaming gold character for longevity. Your heart instantly skipped a beat. This wasn't just an invitation, it felt exactly like an imperial decree. But Xingyao didn't even reach out to take it. She merely lowered her gaze, glancing coldly at that glaring gold character. The lingering warmth in her eyes vanished in an instant, replaced by her signature dark, mocking chill. The old madam is finally making a move. Uncle Zhang lowered his voice to a whisper. She heard about what happened at the university, and she was absolutely furious. She said, since you have publicly acknowledged Mr. Mu's status, you must bring him to the main estate for her to see. Next week is her 80th birthday banquet. All the elite families of the capital will be there. Uncle Zhang paused, adding the deadliest remark. The old madam specifically emphasized. This is a family banquet, Mr. Mu. You must attend. You absolutely must. It is an order. You instantly understood. This invitation was nothing less than a declaration of war. However, Xingyao just let out a cold sneer. She pinched the heavy invitation between two fingers. Chi-Chi doesn't push novels. She handled it just like tossing out the trash. She casually tossed it onto the entryway table. Smack. The invitation slid all the way across the surface. Her eyes were ice cold. Her tone filled with absolute contempt. They want to see him? She tugged at her collar, her lips curling into a cruel smirk. I think she's setting up a trap, just to put you in your place in front of everyone. You instantly understood. What birthday celebration? What family banquet? It was all just a pathetic excuse. She just wanted to gather all the powerful factions together, to make a total laughingstock out of you. If you went there, what awaited you would absolutely not be the warmth of an elder. It would be brutal scrutiny, malicious harassment, and outright humiliation. That place was a literal wolf's den. 10,000 times more dangerous than school. Just then, Xingyao turned around and looked at your silent figure. She reached out her hand, gently stroking your cheek. Mujie, this is the Xing family banquet. It's also the most cutthroat elite circle in the capital. You're going to see a lot of people. People who are coming after me, and people who just want to watch us burn. She narrowed her eyes, her voice growing even colder. And, people who want to eat you alive. She stared deeply into your eyes, asking you, word by word. Are you scared? But before you could even answer, she added something else, her tone filled with endless, unapologetic indulgence. If you don't want to go, or if you're afraid. The very next second, she picked up that gold-stamped invitation. Looking like she was going to rip it to shreds. Then we just won't go. As long as you don't want to, there isn't a single soul in this capital who can force you. You looked at the word longevity in her hands, right on the verge of being torn apart. You knew that if you gave even a single nod, she would absolutely do it. She would shield you from everything, keeping you completely untouchable. But, you could hide for a moment, but could you hide for a lifetime? As long as you were still wearing those prayer beads. As long as you still stood by her side. The vicious attacks from the shadows would never end. You couldn't just hide behind her forever. Acting as her burden, as her only weakness. You took a deep breath. You thought of how fiercely she had backed you up in front of the entire world. You couldn't let her lose face. And then, you abruptly reached out, firmly holding down her hand to stop her from tearing up the invitation. Miss Xing, you look at her. Those almond eyes are sparkling with a light you've never seen before. Don't tear it. Damn, just 2 short words, but they land with a heavy, undeniable impact across the hall. Xingyao looks at you, her gaze no longer dodging. In those eyes that were always brimming with tears, a small flame of courage is burning right now. Mujie, are you absolutely sure? She grabs your hand in return, her tone incredibly grave. That place is a literal bloodbath. They will eat you alive. Once you step foot in there, you have no way out. I know, you nod, the corners of your lips curling up slightly. But, Miss Xing, I am your medicine, remember? You hold her hand back tightly, your fingers interlacing. Your voice is soft, yet it carries a desperate, all-or-nothing resolve. How could I ever leave my patient? Since I'm going to be the man of the Xing household, I can't keep hiding like a coward. I need to stand right by your side. You need to show everyone that the man Xingyao chose is absolutely not some dead weight dragging her down. Xingyao stares at you intently, swallowing hard. In that moment, a wild surge of heartache, shock, and undeniable, growing affection washes over her. Okay, after a long pause, she pulls you fiercely into her arms, her voice incredibly hoarse. If you want to go, then we go. I will make sure you are the most dazzling presence there that night. And she keeps her word. To pay off their debts, your parents sold you overnight to the wealthy eldest daughter who suffers from bipolar disorder and extreme sound sensitivity. First thing the next morning, over a dozen black luxury vans roll in, one after another. Out step the world's top styling teams, whom Xingyao flew in overnight. From Paris and Milan, the massive, empty walk-in closet instantly turns into a top-tier fashion runway. Hundreds of this season's haute couture suits, luxury watches and cufflinks are wheeled in, a dazzling feast for the eyes. A French designer with a little mustache is eagerly pitching to Xingyao. Boss Xing, these sets are the grand finale pieces of this season. They haven't even been released to the public yet. Yet, Xingyao just sits lazily on the sofa, her critical gaze sweeping over the priceless suits. Finally, she points to a set in the corner. That one, bring it for him to try on. 10 minutes later, the curtains of the fitting room slowly pull back. You walk out, wearing a perfectly fitted black suit. Xingyao, who was just in the middle of talking, abruptly stops speaking. You step out, feeling a bit awkward. Is it a bit too plain? But Xingyao doesn't say a single word. She even forgets to put down her coffee cup. You look way too handsome. You're still adjusting your collar in the mirror, completely oblivious to the increasingly dangerous look in the woman's eyes behind you. Get out! An icy voice suddenly explodes across the room. The designers freeze in absolute shock. Boss Xing? I said, get out, all of you. Xingyao set down her coffee cup, her voice simmering with barely suppressed irritation, and an overwhelming possessiveness. Instantly, no one dared to cross this queen's bad side. The designers retreated like a receding tide. In the massive walk-in closet, it was just the two of you left. You looked completely lost. What's wrong? Does it look bad? Why did you kick everyone out? Xingyao didn't answer. She stood up, and walked toward you, step by step. Next second, she reached out. Her cool fingertips rested on your shoulder. It looks good. She leaned in close behind your ear, her voice low and husky. So good, that I want to. So, to suppress this craving, I'm going to start tasting. Meanwhile, in the northern suburbs of the capital, at the West Mountain Estate. This was the Xing family's ancestral home. A sprawling mansion with over 100 years of history. Inside the main hall, sandalwood incense curled into the air. But it couldn't mask the biting, tense chill. Old Madame Xing sat in the grand armchair, leaning on her dragon head cane. Even though she was over 80 years old, those eagle-like eyes still flashed with ruthless, calculating clarity. Seated below her were several elders from the Xing family's branch lines. And there was Xing Shen, her arm in a sling, her face deadly pale. Xing Shen's mother was sobbing uncontrollably. Mother, you have to get justice for our little Shen. That Xingyao, all for some stray mutt of a man. She personally snapped her own cousin's wrist. She even took the prayer beads, the symbol of the family head's absolute power, and gave them to that man. Enough. Old Madame Xing violently slammed her cane against the floor. The hall instantly fell dead silent. Useless trash. The old madam cast a freezing glare at Xing Shen. You can't even handle a single man, and you have the nerve to come back here and cry? Xing Shen shrank her neck back, furious, but too terrified to speak. The old madam took a deep breath. A dark, stormy shadow flickered in her cloudy eyes. She couldn't care less about Xing Shen's broken hand, but she definitely cared about those prayer beads. That was the symbol of the Xing family's ultimate power. It absolutely could not fall into the hands of a nobody with zero background. Xingyao was openly challenging her authority. She was telling the entire family that for this man, she would gladly turn against her own blood. That boy, Mu Jie, the old madam twisted the jade thumb ring on her finger. Her voice raspy. I hear he's a fatherless, motherless orphan. Yes, he's just a debt repayment offering sent by the Mu family. He reeks of cheap poverty. A branch uncle immediately chimed in, his tone bitter and sharp. With a filthy status like his, he's not even fit to shine Xingyao's shoes. The old madam let out a cold, sharp laugh. Since Xingyao is so deeply bewitched, then let's help her wake the hell up. She waved her hand, and the head maid immediately handed over a guest list. Tomorrow night's birthday banquet is the perfect opportunity. Staring at a specific name on the list, a calculating, wicked smile crept up the corners of the old madam's mouth. I've already sent someone to pick up that Song boy. At the mention of the Song family, everyone's eyes in the room instantly lit up. Song Qing, the only son of an elite, top-tier political family in the capital. A Harvard graduate, brilliant and incredibly handsome. More importantly, he was old Madame Xing's handpicked choice for her granddaughter's husband. He went abroad to further his studies 3 years ago, and now, he was finally back. Song Qing is a proud man. If he sees a pathetic country bumpkin standing next to Xingyao, the uncle covered his mouth, snickering with absolute malicious glee. And tomorrow night's little show is going to be absolutely spectacular. The old madam snapped the guest list shut, her tone as cold and detached as if she were deciding the fate of a mere ant. Tomorrow night, you do not need to show Xingyao any respect. Let that nobody, Moog, see exactly where he stands. Show him the difference between the heavens and the dirt. Make him realize his place, tuck his tail between his legs, and get the hell out of the Xing family. Meanwhile, at that exact same moment, back at the Xing manor, the third-floor study was blazing with light. Xingyao stood before the massive floor-to-ceiling windows, her silhouette as cold and immovable as a mountain. Spread across the grand desk behind her was a detailed architectural blueprint of the banquet hall for the birthday gala. Several strategic points were aggressively circled in red ink. Boss, her special assistant, Xu Yang, reported with a grim expression. We just got the news. The old madam's people, they brought young Master Song Qing back. For tomorrow night's banquet, he was specifically invited, to be your date. At the sound of that name, Xingyao didn't even twitch a muscle. It was as if he were just some irrelevant nobody on the street. And? She asked flatly, what else? The extended family has prepared quite a few surprises. They're planning to teach Mr. Moog a lesson at the banquet. Xu Yang wiped a bead of cold sweat from his forehead. This so-called lesson was nothing more than public humiliation, mercilessly tearing apart his humble background in front of everyone. For a man who had never stepped foot into their cutthroat world of wealth and power, that kind of slow, agonizing humiliation would hurt worse than a physical beating. This wasn't a birthday party. It was a vicious, carefully orchestrated trap. Yet, Xingyao simply turned around. She walked over to the desk and picked up the red marker. Right in the dead center of the banquet hall on the blueprint, she violently slashed a giant red X. Teach him a lesson? She let out a low, dark laugh. Her laughter was laced with a bone-chilling, terrifying intent. Perfect. It's been a long time since I taught those old fools a lesson. She tossed the pen aside. She locked eyes with Xu Yang and issued her final, deadly command. Notify the shadow guards. Tomorrow night, bring every single tier 1 bodyguard we have. I want that entire venue surrounded. Xu Yang's eyes went wide with shock. Boss, that's the old madam's 80th birthday gala. Bringing that many armed men. Isn't that taking it too far? We're not going there to celebrate. We're staging a hostile takeover. Xingyao slowly raised her head. A dark, ruthless fire burned in her eyes. She slowly stroked her empty left wrist. Her voice soft, yet dripping with a terrifying, apocalyptic violence. Taking it too far? I'm bringing Moog with me. To make them bow down to their new master. Not to let them bully my man. She walked right up to Shuyang, patting her special assistant's stiff shoulder. Pausing on every single word. Remember this. Tomorrow night, if anyone dares to make Mu Jie so much as frown, or makes him feel the slightest bit uncomfortable. Xingyao narrowed her eyes, a vicious glint flashing in her gaze. I don't care whose birthday banquet it is. Flip the damn tables. If anyone dares to run their mouth, cut out their tongues. And offer them up as a birthday gift for the old madam. Shuyang trembled all over. Seeing his boss looking completely unhinged, he bowed his head deeply. Yes, ma'am. In the blink of an eye. It was 7 p.m. on Saturday. The night had already fallen over the capital. Neon lights flickered to life. Inside the main hall of the Xing estate, the crystal chandelier poured down a waterfall of light. The head housekeeper and Uncle Zhang led 2 rows of servants, waiting respectfully on both sides of the grand staircase, holding their breath in anticipation. Suddenly, the soft sound of footsteps echoed from the stairs. Xingyao stood at the landing of the staircase, looking up slightly. You stepped down to the final stair, and paused. You looked at the woman holding her hand out to you. In a daze, you remember that stormy night when you first arrived at the Xing estate. Back then, you had stood in front of her just like this, completely covered in mud and misery. Shivering, absolutely certain you were about to be dragged down to hell. But now, hell had become a castle, and the demon had become your guardian angel. Miss Xing, you gently placed your hand in her palm. Xingyao's fingers instantly locked around yours, gripping tightly. Her dark eyes studied you intensely. Are you ready? Xingyao's voice was low, carrying a faint, heavy tension. Mu Jie, you need to know this. Once we step out those doors, once we get in that car, there is no turning back. Your parents, to pay off their debts, sold you off in the dead of night to a wealthy heiress with severe manic depression and hypersensitive hearing. She stared straight into your eyes, hiding absolutely nothing. Tonight's banquet isn't just some glamorous networking party. A vicious, cold smirk curled on her lips. It's a wolf's den. It's full of rich brats just waiting to laugh at you, and old money elites who want to stomp you straight into the dirt. Not to mention that so-called fiancé of mine, watching my every move like a hawk. You looked at her. You looked at this woman. The same woman who used to terrify you, but who now gave you an endless sense of security. You felt the heavy weight of the Buddhist prayer beads around your wrist. That was half of her life, entrusted entirely to you. Since you held her life in your hands, you were going to stay by her side until the bitter end. You took a deep breath, and squeezed her hand back, even tighter. Fingers intertwined, palm against palm. You lifted your head and said, Xingyao. You called out her name, your voice crystal clear, and unshakably firm. As long as I'm with you, I'm not afraid. Xingyao froze for a split second. Then, all the dark shadows in her eyes completely melted away. They were replaced by a fierce, drowning devotion and wild arrogance. Good. She let out a soft chuckle, taking your hand in hers. She turned you both toward the front doors. Then let's go. Let's go show those old fossils exactly who the man of the Xing family really is. The very next second, the heavy doors swung wide open. A biting, cold wind rushed in. Outside, a black Maybach had been waiting for them. Over a dozen bodyguard vehicles were lined up like a massive convoy, their headlights slicing through the pitch-black night. A bodyguard respectfully pulled the door open, and Xingyao guided you safely into the car. With a heavy thud of the door closing, the massive convoy slowly rolled into motion. Like a sharp sword, it pierced straight into the dazzling, neon-lit heart of Beijing's nightlife. Outside the window, neon lights flashed by in a blur. But inside the cabin, your hand and Xingyao's remained tightly intertwined. Your prayer beads pressed together, your pulses beating in perfect unison. Meanwhile, at the West Hill Villa in the western suburbs of Beijing, the estate was already blazing with lights. As the absolute pinnacle of Beijing's elite circle, the Xing family matriarch's 80th birthday banquet was shockingly extravagant tonight. Starting all the way from the foot of the mountain, a seemingly endless line of luxury cars snaked upward. Rolls-Royces, Bentleys, and Maybachs were as common as cheap cabbages tonight. Countless powerful elites and celebrities mingled in the crowd, whispering among themselves. They were all waiting for tonight's true VIPs to arrive. I heard Miss Xing is coming tonight. Oh, she's definitely coming. She has to show face for this one. Hey, did you guys hear? About Miss Xing's, you know, her new toy? You mean that med student? She's just playing around with him. Besides, the eldest young master of the Song family is here tonight. Exactly. There's no way Miss Xing would bring some unpresentable nobody to a place like this. The gossip surged through the crowd like a tidal wave. But just then, a deep, powerful roar of an engine instantly cut through all the noise. Everyone subconsciously stopped talking, turning their heads toward the main entrance. Emerging from the darkness of the night was a pitch-black Maybach. Slowly rolling in, flanked by an escort of 4 Land Rover Defenders. Its blinding headlights cut through the night sky. The very next second, the convoy came to a smooth halt right at the end of the red carpet. The entire venue fell dead silent. Every single pair of eyes was glued to that car. A bodyguard quickly stepped forward, respectfully pulling open the rear door. You stepped out of the car. Standing by the door, you leaned in with a slight bow. Palm facing upward, you offered your hand into the car. A moment later, a pale, elegant hand rested gently against your palm. A ray of moonlight seemed to spill from the dark cabin. Standing among this sea of rich playboys in their tailored suits, you stood out like the blazing sun. The quiet, scholarly elegance radiating from your very bones felt completely at odds with this Vanity Fair reeking of old money. Yet, strangely enough, your presence utterly eclipsed all the shallow glamour in the room. Is that Mugé? Someone in the crowd gasped loudly. All their prepared mockery instantly caught in their throats. Who the hell called him a country bumpkin? With an aura like that, you could tell people he was a foreign prince, and they would absolutely believe it. You held Xingyao's hand, feeling the stares from every direction practically burning a hole right through you. You were so nervous, your palms were sweating a little. But you remembered Xingyao's words. Don't look down. You took a deep breath, and stood up straight, tilting your chin up just a bit. But right at the moment you raised your hand, your embroidered sleeve slipped down. Clack. A string of cold, white jade beads was exposed to everyone's view without any warning. Wrapped exactly 3 times around your clean, slender wrist. Every single bead perfectly round and full, giving off an icy chill. It was the very token Xingyao never, ever took off. The cold white jade body, the symbol of absolute power of the Xing family head. Oh my god, a wealthy young heir standing nearby couldn't help but cover his mouth, his eyes trembling violently. That's the Xing Buddha's prayer beads. They're actually on his wrist. The rumors are true. Seeing those beads is like seeing her in person. She didn't just bring a date. She brought in someone we have to worship. In a split second, all those looks of contempt, the probing stares, and even the malicious glares, instantly turned into pure shock, fear, and sheer awe. Xingyao felt the shift in the room's atmosphere. She tilted her head slightly, glancing at you by her side. A smirk played on her lips, her eyes filled with absolute, unapologetic arrogance and indulgence. Right after, she flipped her hand and intertwined her fingers tightly with yours, flaunting those prayer beads even more visibly for everyone to see. Let's go, she whispered. The two of you stepped onto the bright red carpet, walking step by step into the depths of the massive estate. But, the moment Xingyao led you into the main hall, all the loud chatter instantly dropped into dead silence. A second later, even though everyone pretended to go back to mingling, there were countless eyes secretly spying from the shadows. You immediately felt it. Those stares were like gross, sticky webs clinging to your body, scrutinizing your suit, judging your worth, and burning with jealousy over the prayer beads on your wrist. But Xingyao looked totally unbothered, like she was completely used to this. She led you right through the crowd. Everywhere you went, the guests immediately moved out of the way, respectfully bowing their heads and greeting, Miss Xing. Are you hungry? Xingyao leaned in, casually blocking an aunt who was trying to come over and chat. Her voice was gentle. There's a dessert table over there. I'll take you. But before she could even finish her sentence, an old, yet incredibly gloomy figure swooped in like a vulture. She blocked your path without making a single sound. It was Madame Xing's right-hand woman, the head maid, Aunt Fu. Her beady, triangular eyes were filled with malice and cold calculation. Miss, Aunt Fu didn't even bother to look at you. She gave Xingyao a fake, plastic smile. The madam has been waiting for you in the study for quite a while. Xingyao stopped in her tracks, an impatient, icy glare flashing in her eyes. I just got here. Tell grandmother she can wait. I'm afraid that won't do. Aunt Fu didn't back down one bit. Instead, she took a step closer, lowering her voice menacingly. The old madam says it's about the transfer of 5% of the group's core equity. Senior board members are all here. They're just waiting for your signature. Xingyao's eyes suddenly narrowed. Equity transfer. That was the absolute lifeblood of the Xing consortium. The old woman was using the entire group's interests as a bargaining chip, just to force her away from your side. Xingyao let out a cold, sharp laugh. The old lady sure knows how to play this trick. She knew perfectly well this was a trap. The moment she walked away, you'd be completely exposed, left alone in this old Xing family mansion surrounded by wolves. The consequences would be disastrous. Tell grandmother, we'll talk some other day. Xingyao gripped your hand tightly, turning to walk away. I'm only here tonight to celebrate her birthday. We are not talking business. Miss. Aunt Fu's voice suddenly spiked, laced with a very clear threat. The elders are all waiting. If you refuse to go, I'm afraid tomorrow's board meeting might get very ugly. The atmosphere instantly froze. You stood off to the side, watching Xingyao's fiercely clenched jawline. Feeling the intense pressure radiating from her hand, you knew exactly what she was so afraid of. She was choosing you, over tens of billions in equity. Your heart felt so warm it practically burned, but logic screamed at you. You couldn't let her do this. You refused to be the stumbling block that cost her her power. After all, your parents had sold you overnight. just to pay off their debts, to this rich heiress suffering from bipolar disorder and severe sound sensitivity, Miss Xing. You reached out with your free hand, and gently nudged her arm. Xingyao looked down at you, her brows knitted tight. Go on. You tilted your head up, giving her a soft, obedient smile. Business comes first. You can't put off the equity transfer. But, I'll be fine. You pointed toward the dessert table not too far away, keeping your voice light and breezy. I'll just go over there and grab a bite to eat, and wait for you to come back. I promise. I won't run off, and I'll ignore anyone who tries to talk to me. Okay? You shook the prayer beads on your wrist, letting the beads make a crisp, reassuring clink. Besides, I have this on me. Who would dare mess with me? Xingyao just looked at you, stared right into your clear, unwavering eyes. She knew you were just putting on a brave face to ease her burden. After 3 heavy seconds of silence, Xingyao finally caved. Fine. She turned around, her gaze sweeping like a physical strike across the treacherous crowd around you. And then, she snapped her fingers into the cold air. 4 bodyguards materialized like absolute ghosts, standing in perfect unison exactly 3 meters behind you. These were the Xing family's elite shadow guards. Listen to me. Xingyao stared the guards down, her voice low, but dripping with a bone-chilling absolute authority. I am leaving for half an hour. For this next half hour, I don't give a damn about the Xing family rules. And you don't need to show anyone any respect. She reaches out, gently adjusting the collar of your coat. Her fingertips linger as they trace down your cheek. Before she turns her head, her eyes instantly turn cold and ruthless. Keep a close eye on him. If I come back, and find he's missing a single hair, or has been wronged in the slightest. She smirks, revealing a flash of menacing white teeth. I'll have all your heads. With those words, Xingyao lets go of your hand. The moment her warmth pulls away, your heart suddenly skips a beat, leaving an empty feeling behind. Wait for me. Xingyao gives you one last, deep look. Then, she turns around, led by that gloomy-looking butler. She takes long strides up to the second floor. As her silhouette disappears from sight, that suffocating pressure vanishes with her. The banquet hall immediately buzzes back to life. However, countless malicious glares, which had been barely held in check, lock straight onto you like sharks smelling blood in the water now that you're alone. You stand by the dessert table, holding a glass of orange juice in your hand. Behind you, 4 massive bodyguards stand like iron towers. But that doesn't do a thing to stop those people, who swarm over under the guise of socializing. After all, this is old Madame Xing's birthday banquet. Here, no one has to lift a finger to hurt you. A single look, a fake smile, it can all turn into blades slicing right into your skin. So, this is the Mr. Mew who's been causing such a stir in town. A sleazy male voice rings out, and the crowd automatically parts for him. 3 or 4 slicked back, rich playboys strut forward like a bunch of arrogant roosters. They swagger over and surround you. The one leading the pack is none other than Xing Lin, a young master from the Xing family's branch line. He steps right up to you, invading your personal space. The suffocating stench of expensive cologne hits your face, making you frown slightly. Xing Lin doesn't even look at your face. Instead, like he's inspecting a cheap piece of meat, his eyes blatantly scan you up and down, from head to toe. Finally, his gaze locks onto the suit you're wearing. This suit, Xing Lin swirls his champagne, a mocking smirk creeping up his face. Armani's haute couture runway piece from this year, right? There's only one in the whole world, so this is where it ended up. Xing Lin points a finger, gesturing loosely toward your waist. Right there, because Xingyao had been holding you earlier. It left some subtle wrinkles in the fabric. What a damn shame. Xing Lin sighs dramatically, speaking down to you with the sickening superiority of schooling a poor country relative. Mr. Mew, you probably don't understand. This kind of top-tier silk is extremely delicate. When people like us wear haute couture like this, we stand, we never sit. But look at you. He scoffs, his eyes filled with absolute contempt. How did you manage to get it all crumpled up like that? Seriously, what a complete waste of a masterpiece. He might as well be pointing right at your nose, screaming it out loud for the whole room to hear. You're just a country bumpkin. You don't deserve this. Few snickers ripple through the crowd. They're all just waiting to see you make a fool of yourself. They expect you to blush. They expect you to cower. Most people would lower their heads in shame. But, you didn't try to hide the wrinkles, nor did you look the least bit embarrassed. You just stood there quietly, holding your glass of orange juice, looking at him with a calm, unflinching gaze. Your eyes were crystal clear, as if you were looking at a clown. Young Master Xing is right. Your voice was clear and steady. This is indeed real silk. Top-tier mulberry silk, in fact. Xing Lin froze for a second, thinking you had caved. He was just about to gloat. But, you shifted the conversation, taking a slow sip of your juice. Your tone was as calm as if you were stating a simple fact. Clothes are designed to be worn by people. They are meant to serve us. If you're too scared to even sit down because of a piece of clothing, then is the person wearing the clothes? Or are the clothes wearing the person? You lowered your gaze slightly, your eyes sweeping over Xing Lin's perfectly smooth, yet stiff-looking red suit. Besides, there's something you might not know, young Master Xing. Only pure, natural silk and linen will wrinkle. It shows that the fabric breathes. It's also the proof of its price tag. You looked up, meeting Xing Lin's eyes head on, hitting back with quiet precision. As for fabrics that never wrinkle, no matter how you sit. Those stiff, rigid materials. You paused for a moment. Your voice was soft. They're usually made of synthetic blends or polyester. Or, as it's more commonly known, plastic. Peeved. Not only did the guests, but even the bodyguards behind you nearly burst out laughing. You were blatantly telling him, "You laugh at my wrinkles because my clothes are the real deal. Your clothes are perfectly smooth because you're wearing cheap plastic." Xing Lin's face instantly turned pale, then green. His expression was absolutely priceless. He flew into a rage, his voice pitching an octave higher. "How dare you say I'm wearing plastic? What does a Chinese medicine peddler like you know about fashion?